Good evening and welcome to the August 15th, 2024 meeting of the Planning Commission of the City of Calabasas. We appear to have a full complement of commissioners here. Let's see, who's going to lead the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm going to take a volunteer.
I'll do it.
Thank you, John.
Let's go. Hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. All right. Do we have any changes, or do we have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight? Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Announcements and introductions. John?
Nothing?
Oh, Michael. Dennis?
Nothing.
Bob? Okay. We'll move on. Oral communications, public comment. This is the time in the meeting for people wishing to address the Planning Commission on items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards? No? Okay, moving on. Consent items. We have the minutes from July 18th, 2024. Do we have any corrections, or do we have a motion to approve?
One minor correction on item 6, I think was somewhere. The adjournment to the next council meeting was listed as August, what did I write here? As August 18th, it should be August 14th.
For the August 18th City Council meeting, okay.
Item 6, you said?
Item 6, under the director's report, yeah. It refers to the West Village project scheduled for the August 18th City Council meeting. And Commissioner Harrison is saying that was for the August 14th City Council meeting.
Right, on page
Can we
4.
make- yeah.
That's just minor
Okay.
typo.
Can we make that correction? And with that correction, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Moving on. This is for adoption of Resolution 2024-792, approving file number CUP 2023-002, consistent with Planning Commission direction on July 18th, 2024. This is for the alcohol, the license for the new restaurant going in across from the Commons. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is adopted. Okay, moving on to public hearing items. File number SPR 2023-010, OTP-2024-002. This was continued from the July 18th, 2020, well, not 2204, but the 2024 meeting. This is a request for a site plan review and an oak tree permit to construct a new 4,500 square foot, 2-story single-family residence with associated improvements, including attached garage, decks, retaining walls, swimming pool, hardscape, and landscape on the vacant lot located at 22534 Calapatria Drive, with a single residential single-family zoning district. Project also includes encroachment into the protected zone of 2 oak trees, removal of 1 5-inch diameter oak tree, and planting of mitigation oak trees. Commissioner Washburn, anything?
I'm sorry?
No?
Recuse?
No, what I'm going to do is recuse myself, and I want to just confirm with our attorney that it's okay for me to sit in the audience versus having to go to the hiding place.
As a citizen, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm next door neighbor to this property. That's the reason why.
So we'll confirm that you are a citizen of the city of Calabasas. Okay.
It's interesting.
Just
general
checking
thing.
in, just checking in.
Whoever knows the most about it has to be excused.
Or those living, living
Yeah.
next door.
Arnold once said, "I'll be back," right?
Thank you.
Excuse me.
No worries. And Jacqueline, do we have a presentation?
May I?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Fosberg, and good evening, Commissioners. This item is continued from June 6, 2024, and again, it's a request for a site plan review and an oak tree permit to construct a new 4,500 square foot, two-story single-family residence with associated improvements, including an attached garage, decks, retaining walls, swimming pool, hardscape, and landscaping on the vacant lot located at 22534 Calapatria Drive within the residential single-family zoning district. The project also includes encroachment into the protected zone of 2 oak trees, removal of 1 5-inch diameter oak tree, and planting of mitigation oak trees. And this project was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. The notice was also posted on the city's website and throughout the city at all required locations. Staff did not receive any public correspondence in response to the most recent hearing notice for the project for the August 15th meeting. So I'll go through this quickly since we saw this at the prior meeting, but just as a reminder, the property is located on Calapatria Drive within the RS zone. It's surrounded on all sides by other single-family residences. The site was previously improved with a 2,682 square foot residence, which was demolished in 2023 by a court-appointed receiver due to a history of code enforcement on the property. So currently the site is vacant. And again, just as a reminder, here are photos of the site. On the left-hand side photo, you can see taken in 2024. This is the site as viewed from the street. And then in the photo on the right-hand side, this was taken in 2023. This is a view of the prior residence that existed on the property. So you can see in the 2024 photo, the only features that remain are the driveway and the associated retaining walls on site. Okay, so on June 6, 2024, the Planning Commission discussed this item, opened the public hearing, and continued this item to the meeting on July 18, 2024, expressing concerns regarding the proposed project, including the issues listed below. Number 1, the submitted landscape plan being incomplete. Number 2, compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood in regards to design. Number 3, compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood in regards to scale. And number 4, lighting and compliance with the city's dark skies ordinance. The applicant was not able to provide a complete resubmittal in time for the July 18th meeting. Therefore, the Commission continued this item again to a future meeting date uncertain, with the above listed concerns still remaining. Subsequently, the applicant provided a resubmittal, and public hearing notices were again sent out for the August 15th Planning Commission meeting. So just going in order of the Commissioner's concerns that were listed on the previous slide. First, we have the landscape plan. The Commission previously expressed concern regarding the landscape plan that there were 8 to 9 species of plants shown in the provided legend, but not all of those symbols were depicted accurately on the plans. The applicant provided the revised landscape plan that's shown on the slide. The legend was altered to remove all the plant types that were not actually shown on the plan. So you can see here the 4 plants in the plant legend and the corresponding 4 plants shown on the landscape plan. The Commission also expressed concerns regarding the number of plants that were existing and proposed to remain. So the applicant provided a photo of the current front of the property as viewed from the street on Calapatria Drive. The second concern that the Commission had expressed was in regards to design and compatibility of the design with the existing neighborhood. So in response to that comment, the applicant revised the exterior of the residence to remove the flat roof as well as the marble slab feature that was located in the middle of the residence. So instead of the flat roof, the applicant is now proposing a pitched roof with dark gray shingles, which you can see on the front elevation here and the rear elevation here. The same thing is viewed from the side. This is the east side elevation and the west side elevation. You can see in these 2 images the pitched shingled roof as opposed to the flat roof and the marble slab that was previously proposed. And here's their updated rendering that shows the same thing. Again, the pitched shingled roof and with the marble slab feature removed. The third concern that the commission had expressed was neighborhood compatibility in regards to scale. So on this slide, you can see the applicant's revised site plan. The blue shaded area is the first floor. The yellow shaded area is the second floor, and the hatched area are balconies and decks located off of the second floor of the residence. So the site plan was revised to reduce the square footage of the residence by 361 square feet for a total proposed residence size of 4,500 square feet. Additionally, site improvements were revised as a result of the project size being reduced. So starting with in the eastern side yard, this retaining wall was previously proposed to be demolished and rebuilt slightly closer to the side property line and to these oak trees. Because of the fact that the size of the house has been reduced now, they can maintain the required fire department 5-foot access around the side yard without having to relocate that wall. And then in the western side yard, the pool has been relocated. It was previously proposed to be 5 feet from the western side property line. It's now about 10 feet from the western side property line. Here you can see the revised first floor plan. It shows a slightly different layout than the previous design, and the room sizes have been reduced. Here's the revised second floor plan. Again, the room sizes have been slightly reduced, and the total square footage reduction across both the first and second floor is 361 square feet. And here we see the updated oak tree location map. Previously on this oak tree location map, you could see this black line right here, the new retaining wall, was proposed to be in the protected zone of the oak trees right here, a couple feet farther to the east than the existing retaining wall is. That wall is now existing to remain instead of to be relocated closer to the oak trees. So there's no new root impact from retaining walls to those two oak trees. The third oak tree is still proposed to be removed, and there still will be construction within the protected zone of these oak trees as a result of the new house being built on site, but there's no new root impacts to those two trees. The fourth concern that the commission had expressed was in regards to lighting in the city's dark skies ordinance. At the June 6th meeting, the rendering that the applicants had provided showed bright under-eave lighting in these areas here under the eaves. And so the commission had expressed a concern regarding the glare resulting from that. So these light fixtures have been removed from the plans, and the only two light fixtures that you can see in this image here are shielded adjacent to the garage. Additionally, within your packets, the attached draft conditions of approval, condition number 9 requires that the project comply with the city's lighting ordinance. Moving on to the home size comparison. Surrounding homes are a mix of 1- and 2-story residences. As previously, home sizes in the vicinity range from 1,674 square feet to 4,004 square feet. Lot sizes range approximately from 10,106 square feet to 27,519 square feet. The average home size in the vicinity is 2,541 square feet. The average lot size is 14,173 square feet. With the revisions to the project, including the 360 square foot reduction in square footage, the proposed residence will be 4,500 square feet in total, and the lot size is 12,486 square feet. And this information comes from the home comparison table within the technical appendix of the staff report, which looked at homes within a 300-foot radius of the subject site. And that data came from the LA County Assessor and does not include garage sizes. Listed here are the 6 required findings for a site plan review per section 17.62.020 of the Municipal Code. The applicant's proposed findings for a site plan review are included in your packets as Exhibit B. And per the Municipal Code, at least 1 of 5 findings for an oak tree permit needs to be met in order for an oak tree permit to be approved by the Commission. The applicant has provided a response to this finding shown on your screen due to the request in this case being for removal of an oak tree. So with that, staff concludes the proposed single-family residence is an allowed use in the residential single-family zoning district. The proposed project conforms to the development standards of the RS zone. Compliance with these standards is documented within the written staff report. Homes in the neighborhood range in size from 1,674 square feet to 4,004 square feet. And with the revisions, the proposed residence will be 4,500 square feet. The Architecture Review Panel recommended approval of the project. And lastly, the project is exempt from CEQA review pursuant to Section 15061, General Rural Exemption, and 15303, New Construction of the California CEQA Guidelines. So staff recommends that the Commission direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval or a resolution for denial of file number SPR-2023-010 and OTP-2024-002, inclusive of all required findings to support the resolution. Staff is prepared to assist the Commission in developing findings for approval or denial as required. Thank you. I'm available for questions, and I believe the applicant is here as well.
Great, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Before I open the public hearing, do any of the commissioners have questions of staff? Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your report, and thank you for the revisions that you've made. On slide 5, which is A1.02, if you, it's a little small here, but in the front, the very front, it says new 3-inch oak trees. So I've got 2 questions about that. One is, what kind of oak trees? They're not, everything else is identified by plant name scientifically, and this one just says oak tree. Is this going to be a Quercus agrifolia, like the ones being removed, or the one being removed now, or is it? I'm hoping it's an evergreen oak tree like that, not a deciduous. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe I better repeat. On the landscape plan, I see 2 number 4s in the front for oak trees. It just says oak trees, and it doesn't identify what kind of oak tree. And I'm hoping it'll be an evergreen oak, like the one that's proposed to be removed, like the Quercus agrifolia. Do you know?
I can double check in the oak tree report, but my assumption was same as you mentioned, that because they're removing the Quercus agrifolia, that's what they'll be replacing. And the applicant is also here and can answer that as well, but I'll check if the Latin name is mentioned in the report.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's, because there already are a couple of agrifolia on the other side, so I just, and then the other thing is, how I can't tell from this how far apart those 2 oak trees are, where it says new 3-inch oak trees. I mean, it looks like a foot apart. Is there a way to put one of them on the other side of the driveway, closer to where the oak tree that's being removed was located, to make it a little more screening, because they say they're going to have lush landscaping to screen, and that whole left side by the driveway is open. So I can't tell how far apart that is.
I think the only reason they placed it in that location is because that was farthest away from any work being done on site. But we can definitely ask the applicant if they'd be willing to relocate it. I think they just wanted to give it enough room away from the new retaining wall and things like that they're building in that area where they're removing the.
But I thought they're not changing the retaining wall now. So
they're not changing the part that's
on the other side of the driveway.
Let me go to.
Yeah, on the left of the driveway. So if they're not, then I don't know why they can't put an oak tree in there. But I guess we'll find out.
The black line right here is the portion of the retaining wall that's new, and
Wait,
then
I don't see where your cursor is.
Oh,
there we go.
see it now. The portion of the wall that's black is the portion that's new. It's this portion right here, adjacent to the other 2 oak trees that is now existing to remain.
Under this black line, is there no reason why is some reason why they can't put an oak tree in the front? Closer to the street, to block the left side of the driveway a little bit.
I don't think there's any reason why not. We can ask the applicant. I think the reason why they just put them in the front in the first place is to keep it away from the construction, but
okay.
We can ask them.
Well, I mean, but after construction, they don't have to plan it during construction. Anyway,
Well,
okay, thank you.
If I may, Commissioner Harrison's bringing up some questions of his own. We have yet to hear from your fellow commissioners. So after we hear from everybody, then we can talk about options for something like this.
Oh, sure, I don't need an answer.
Okay.
I'll wait for the
Yeah.
applicant.
Okay,
thank you.
terrific. Commissioner Mueller, anything before we open the public hearing?
Yes, I have a question. Is Exhibit B in the August 15 packet, which is the findings submitted by applicant, is that correct? That's Exhibit B? And that isn't any different than the findings proposed in the June 6 hearing, is that correct?
Yes, they're the same.
So, for example, the findings that they're proposing today still include a 4,861 square foot home.
Obviously, that is an error that should have been corrected.
Well, it also refers to, the softening of the front elevation with lush landscaping, et cetera, which it kind of been, in my view, at least based in part on the old landscaping plan, which I understand has now been revised to eliminate lots of species that were proposed. Okay, well, I just wanted to confirm that I'm dealing with a set of findings that are plainly outdated. I think Commissioner Harrison covered some of the other questions. Am I correct that in the So in the front, as you face the front elevation from Calabasas, in the existing foliage that is there anything new being added in that section? That's what I'm unclear. As I face the house from Calabasas, what exactly is going to happen from, you've got a picture of it here in the front, with that big tree. What else is going in there exactly?
Because that's coming out, right?
I don't know.
It's these 4 plants that they have in the legend, but we can also let the applicant confirm exactly what existing shrubs are going to remain.
I want to know what's going to stay and what's going to go in as you look at it from the street.
Yes, they provided these pictures in response to that question, but we can also have them weigh in on that.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Commissioner Leah?
No, I'll wait till after public
All right.
comment.
Right. All right. And I will wait as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have speaker cards, or do we just have the applicant?
She has some.
Do you plan to testify?
She has some.
You know what, Tom? There.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
Does anybody want a card to fill out? Yes, please.
Okay. We have one speaker card. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that, and then we'll bring the applicant up after. And I apologize, can't really read the last letter of the last name, James Me. Is that an E at the end? M-E-E?
I'm here to speak on a different project, not that one.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, this says project at 4053 Schuylkill.
That's
Oh,
the
so
next
it's a
one,
different
the next
project.
one. Yeah.
Okay,
next one.
got it. All right, thank you. We've got that cleared up, and when it comes up, I'll know how to pronounce your last name. Okay, so can I ask the applicant to come up, please? Because it appears that there are a number of questions from the commissioners for you. Can you please state your name and your city of residence?
Good evening. My name is Farzan Mali. I'm the architect of this project, and I live in Sherman Oaks, California.
Okay. And is there anything that you want to say, or are you here to answer questions?
Jacqueline already explained what the changes we made since the last submittal. And regarding the landscape, our landscape architect is supposed to be here, but he's on the way to coming, so unfortunately I cannot answer any question regarding landscape.
Okay. What percentage of your questions would you say relate to landscape? Because I'm considering taking this matter out of order, halting it for the moment, and
waiting
Is there
for that.
any reason why we cannot take the matter out of order? Because if the landscape architect is expected and most of, or a good deal of the questions from the commission are for the landscape architect, then it would seem to make sense to move it down on the agenda.
Yeah,
Any reason we
No
can't do
reason.
that?
no.
All right. Then I will ask you to take a seat. I tell you what, when the landscape architect arrives, if you can just give a little high sign so that I know that they have arrived, we'll bring the matter back as soon as we can. All right?
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on.
Next project.
And remind me, we do have a speaker card on this item now, so.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to item number 4, which is file number SPR 2024-004, request for a site plan review to construct additions totaling 957 square feet to an existing split-level single-family residence located at 4053. And my understanding is it's pronounced Schuylkill. Feel free to correct me if that is not right, and I think it depends what part of the country you're from, how you pronounce it. But
Or what country you're from.
that too, within the residential single-family zoning district. Welcome back, Commissioner Washburn. Jacqueline, you have a presentation for us.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. This is a request for a site plan review to construct additions totaling 957 square feet to an existing split-level single-family residence located at 4053 Schuylkill? Maybe I got that right. Drive within the residential single-family zoning district. This project was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. The notice was also posted on the city's website and throughout the city at all required locations, and staff did not receive any public correspondence in regards to this project. The project site is located north of Mulholland Highway within the residential single-family zoning district and the greater Mulwood community. The site is surrounded to the north, south, east, and west by other single-family residences. So in this slide, you can see a close-up view of the existing site. You can see the roof outline of the split-level residence here, as well as accessory features on site, including a pool, landscape, and hardscape. This is a photograph of the existing residence as viewed from the street. So the proposal is for construction of additions totaling 957 square feet. 597 square feet are to be added to the first floor and 360 square feet to the second floor of an existing split-level single-family residence. And Calabasas Municipal Code Section 17.62.020 requires this project to be reviewed by the Planning Commission because the proposed addition exceeds 20% of the existing residence's square footage. So the site plan is cropped for readability to show the area of work since no work is proposed towards the rear property line. You can see here in yellow are the areas of first floor addition totaling 597 square feet and second floor addition shown in blue, which is 360 square feet. So the residence is split level. So first we have the garage on the left-hand side where my cursor is, first floor over here on the right-hand side, and then second floor over here above the existing garage. And the additions are to the front and side of the house on the first floor, and on the second floor above the existing garage, and then cantilevered out at the rear of the residence. We have a small portion of addition back there on the second floor. The additions are proposed to comply with all development standards, including setbacks, height, site coverage, and pervious surfaces. The side setbacks of the proposed addition are 10 feet 3 inches on this side, 16 feet 11 inches on this side, The front setback is 21 feet 9 inches, and the height of the proposed additions is the same as the height of the existing residence at 21 feet 6 inches. Proposed site coverage is 28%, and proposed pervious surface is 50%. Here we have the proposed first floor plan. You can see shaded in yellow the areas of addition to the first floor. The entryway addition, located right here, is underneath the existing roof line. There is no change proposed to the garage level, which is shown on the left-hand side of the screen here. Since it's a split-level floor plan, the garage is, again, directly below the second floor. And then we have the proposed second floor plan. You can see it's 360 square feet total. The majority of the addition is above the existing garage, extending these 2 bedrooms out, and then a portion of the addition is at the rear of the residence back here. You can see that the outline of the second floor is set back a few feet from the outline of the garage below, just to create separation between the first and second floor when the house is viewed from the street. Here we have the proposed elevations. This is the front elevation. You can see a peach or apricot colored stucco, a tile roof, and we have the rear elevation here. This is the north side elevation, and then this is the south side elevation. And here we have the colors and materials, so a semi-smooth peach-colored stucco, limestone tile accents for the entryway, dark brown trim elements, and then a Spanish tile roof. So the Architecture Review Panel reviewed the proposed project on June 28th, 2024. The subject site is not located within a designated scenic corridor, and there are no special architectural design standards applicable to the property. The ARP found that the proposed project is compatible with the aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhood and recommended approval of the project to the Planning Commission with additional considerations that the applicant has revised the plans to incorporate. The ARP's recommendations include to alter the proposed roof material from shingle roof to a Spanish tile roof, to add roof tiles above the garage to create separation between the first and second floor, to add taller windows at the front facade, to set windows deeper into walls and add trim to the windows, to enhance the entry feature by raising the height, to add detail at roof eaves, to add a shroud to the existing chimney, and lastly, to add a window to the east elevation. So just going back to the proposed elevations to show how those changes were incorporated. The residence was originally proposed to have a shingle roof. It's since switched to the Spanish tile, so you can see that in this image. The ARP recommended that they add eave detail, so you can see that is shown in this image. They recommended that they make these windows at the front elevation larger, which they did. They recommended to enlarge this entry feature, which they did. And they added a roof tile element between the first and second floors. When you view the residence from the front, previously it was proposed to just be a flat roof. Moving on to the side elevation, you can see here they added a chimney shroud and they added this window as requested by the ARP. Moving on to the home size comparison. Home sizes in the vicinity range from 1,741 square feet to 3,582 square feet. Lot sizes range from approximately 7,787 square feet to 32,214 square feet. The average home size in the vicinity is 2,612 square feet. The average lot size is 10,951 square feet. With the proposed project, this residence would be 3,496 square feet in total, and the lot size is 9,203 square feet. Surrounding homes are a mix of 1- and 2-story residences. And this information comes from the home comparison table within the technical appendix of the staff report, which looked at homes within a 300-foot radius of the subject site. Data comes from the LA County Assessor and does not include garage sizes. Moving on to the 6 required findings for a site plan review per section 17.62.020 of the Municipal Code. The applicant's proposed findings for a site plan review are included in the packets as Exhibit B. So with that, staff concludes that the proposed project will not alter the existing single-family residential use at the subject site, which is an allowed use in the RS zone. Compliance with the applicable development standards is documented within the written staff report. Homes in the neighborhood range in size from 1,741 square feet to 3,582 square feet, and with the proposed additions, the residence will be 3,496 square feet. The ARP recommended approval of the project with recommendations that the applicant revise the plans to incorporate, And lastly, the project is exempt from CEQA review pursuant to Section 15061, General Rule Exemption, and 15301, Existing Facilities of the California CEQA Guidelines. With that, staff recommends that the Commission direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval or resolution for denial of file number SPR-2024-004, inclusive of all required findings to support the resolution. Staff is prepared to assist the Commission in developing findings for approval or denial as required. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. Before I open the public hearing, do any of the commissioners have questions of staff? Commissioner Michael.
Thank you. On your slide 9, which is page A3.02, it shows 2 windows in the front, but when you look in the what I guess is the living room, but when you look at the rendering on that page, it only has 1 window. So my question is, which is the right one?
The elevation is accurate. The rendering was prepared with their first submittal. So for, I believe, monetary purposes, they had chosen, they left the rendering in so that you get better visual of what the house is going to look like. But in terms of exact specific detail, the elevation is what they will be building.
So the elevation reflects the change made pursuant to the
Yes.
recommendation of the ARP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
And so also, I noticed in these plans, the colors are not consistent. There's this apricot color called out on that page, and that's the color in the elevations. But Exhibit C has other colors, and in the rendering, it's a lighter color. So I don't have any idea what color the house is actually going to be.
The exact color they'll be using is the one that's shown on this slide, the La Habra stucco.
So this is from Exhibit C, actually, not what's shown then on A302, or?
I believe this is called out on that sheet as well, but this is the specific stucco color.
No, on that sheet, it says apricot color stucco, and then it says La Habra stucco solution. I don't know. Is it, that's more of a, I don't know what color that, yeah, that's more of a tan, which I like better than this darker apricot color. But it's just but I don't know, because they're different colors.
I'm sorry, the Colors and Materials Board is what governs here.
So that's Exhibit
C? That's specific.
Okay, so it's not this apricot and it's not this off-white, it's sort of a darker, it's like a tan.
Yes, on sheet A3.02, it does have the specific color there as well. You can call that tan, apricot, whatever you would describe the color as, but the specific stucco color is listed on this sheet as well as on the Colors and Materials Board. So whatever color you would describe that as, I believe, is fine, but the specific one they'll be using is listed.
Okay, I just wasn't sure, because it looked,
And Exhibit C,
that one is different from apricot, yeah.
Yes, the one on Exhibit C, the name of it is the same as the name in the plan set.
I see, so maybe just the colors,
and
how
picture-
they
the way they show
They
up
print.
on, they print
Yeah,
out differently
right.
sometimes.
But they actually use the word apricot colored
Yeah.
stucco. Okay, so no, that's better, actually. And then, I'm not sure about the porcelain tiles in the driveway. I guess you can have porcelain tiles that are not slippery, I hope, but can they make them separated a little bit so that they have, so they're more pervious? Or is that, I guess I could ask the applicant that.
Could you clarify which tiles you're asking
So
about?
this calls out for porcelain limestone tiles in the front of the driveway, porcelain.
Those aren't for the driveway, that's for the arched entryway.
Oh, I see. Okay, what kind of tile then is it for the driveway?
I believe it's their existing. They're not calling out a new driveway material.
Oh, it looked different in the rendering, so I couldn't tell.
Why don't we wait until we
Okay,
get
yeah,
the
we'll wait.
applicant
All right, thank
here.
you. That's it.
All right. Commissioner Mueller.
Yes, Jacqueline, just very briefly, in the comparison to the other homes, did I understand you to just say that you looked at homes within 300 feet of the of the project? So all these homes are within 300 feet?
Yes.
And is it sort of a circle around, a 300-foot circle around the?
Yes, in our GIS system, we do a 300-foot radius, and then I export the list of all of the 300, or all the results that come up within that radius.
So I've been here 100 years. Has this always been the practice?
I believe we started doing it in the past year. We found, I think previously we did maybe 6 homes, a handful of homes, but we found that a bigger radius gives you a bigger picture of the neighborhood as a whole instead of just the homes on either side.
So when we see projects, we can assume that you use this 300-foot concentric analysis?
Yes.
And would you agree that this particular project is about 30 to 35% larger than the average of the homes within that circle?
I don't know if I can do that math off the top of my head.
Well, it's 1,000 square feet added onto it, so it's going to be, what, 3,500 square feet roughly, and the average is 2,600, so it seems to me that's about 30%, somewhere in there, 32%. I only point that out because that's a large percentage as a comparison to average. But in your 300-foot circle, there are a lot of 3,000 and then even a couple 3,500 square foot homes.
Yes.
So that picks up really quite a. I'm very shocked and pleased that it's such a broad range that picks up. Huh, okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and, there are questions. Commissioner Washburn, go ahead.
Yeah, it has to do with the, actually the picture on the very first page of the Exhibit A. And I'm looking later on in the packet, and it says landscaping to remain. And the landscaping that's there is a hedge, and like so many of us have in Calabasas, a brown lawn and a brown parkway. Is there detail that I'm missing in terms of what the landscaping is that's either to remain or to be modified?
If it says that the landscaping is to remain, I assume that the landscaping is to remain. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm assuming that means the remainder of the landscaping, that isn't going to be where the residence is occupying, is to remain. We don't require a landscape plan for just an addition to a residence. But they had informed us that the remainder of the landscaping outside of that area of addition is to remain. I believe we have someone here representing the project tonight. Perhaps not. I know the architect is out of town, but she's going to, someone is representing the project, yes.
Okay. We can
May be better for them to answer.
better ask the questions of
I
them.
will. I was looking just to find out if there was a specific thing that I missed in the packet, and obviously not, so, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Leah.
Yes, Jacqueline, I have a question on the architecture building design. You use the term, many have been enlarged. Can you put a percentage to that?
A percentage as to, can you repeat the question, please?
Your architectural building design, the residents in the vicinity of the subject site, originally constructed 60 years ago, many have been enlarged. Give us a percentage. I'd like, many is an ambiguous
I
number.
don't have a percentage off the top of my head, but I do know the last several projects that the commission has reviewed have been in the same greater Molewood neighborhood.
Yeah,
But I don't have a percentage.
Didn't we see one on Magna Carta like last December or something that was almost the
I
same?
believe we have about 10 that are either already has been seen by the commission or will be soon seen by the commission that are within the same vicinity map.
But the same issue with the split level?
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes, I think we've seen one with this exact floor plan, actually.
Right, on Magna Carta, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? All right, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I have a speaker card. Oh, wait. I have two. Hang tight for one moment. Or it might just be easier to ask. Is one of you the applicant, Mr. Smith or Mr. Me? No.
I'm the brother of, I'm Walter Smith, I'm the brother of the applicant.
Okay. Mr. Smith, do you have very specific knowledge about this? I see some plans in your hands. Do you have specific knowledge about the project?
Not as specific as I would like. I would prefer if the
Have
neighbors
them come to the microphone so we can hear it.
be allowed to go first.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Mee, can you come on up to the podium, please? State your name and city of residence.
James Mee, and I live at 4041 Schuylkill Drive. Excuse me, I'm the neighbor directly to the south. And just to give you a quick background, you approved an encroachment issue I had for an addition I'm currently doing on my house. So I was here months ago, several months ago. And thank goodness I got it approved because I'm doing the addition. So this is my neighbor, Laura. Laura had conflicting issues, and so she brought me her speech, which just addresses that she's been a very, very long time resident of Calabasas. She was born in a hospital, but she was raised by her parents in the Mulwood Heights tract, which is just across the Mulholland Highway. And she went to all the local schools, Calabasas High, and she currently has 2 boys, both teens. One of them just graduated Calabasas. The other one is in Calabasas. This project, she wanted to make sure that it was to help. Portion of the addition was to expand their bedrooms because these homes were built with 0 closet space, and that's the purpose for doing that. The kitchen, which is in the front of the house, is it's the kitchen that the house was designed with, and the house just to the south of mine on the other side is the same exact floor plan. And the lady there, the residents there have been there for 100 years, longer than I have. I've been here 30 years. And they expanded their kitchen out to the front. The house next to that did an addition to the front of their house. So this is really not anything that's out of the ordinary for the tract. And I remember, I've been here 30 years, and when I first moved in, you could hear everybody was redoing their roofs because they were all wooden roofs. And I was a day sleeper for most of my career. I'm currently retired, but I worked nights, and I worked in law enforcement. I worked at Lost Hill Station, and I'd sleep during the day, and I'd hear all day long everybody doing new roofs. And now, 30 years later, there's urban renewalization, and everybody in the tracts or throughout the tracts are upgrading their homes. And that's really all this is just an upgrade in which will be a definite bonus benefit to everybody who lives in the neighborhood because it'll enhance the home values, even though I guess it's Mr. Mueller mentioned that this is going to be on the high side of the area square footage for the average homes. It's still within the range of the home. So she's not building a castle. And from the aesthetic point of view, from the street, it's going to fit in well with the existing homes in the area. So that's my story.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, before you
go ahead.
walk away, there were questions about the landscaping. Do you know anything about?
I can tell you that Laura, we all got hit with the water issue, and everybody had to shut off their water, and she followed that to a T. So the pictures that you see of the existing house are right around the time that were taken around the time that everybody had to shut off their landscaping water. So she has, Walter, her brother, has a picture. You want to hand it to me? Has a picture of the landscaping. And the landscaping, I know she intends to keep conservation in mind. Landscaping, I believe she has one tree shown in the front yard that she intends to plant because there are no trees in the front right now. And everything else will be just greenery. Does that help?
Well, when you say everything else will be greenery,
grass.
what exists now? Or are there plans to add to what exists now other than the one tree?
It's
And
it's
if you
going to be
don't- if you- if you
re-landscaped, but it's
don't-
going to be similar. It's going to be simple. It's not being designed at this time to be extravagant. There's
Okay.
not going to be
And
a-
if you don't know, you can say, I don't really know, if that's the case.
yeah, that's what I know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. Mee? He is a neighbor, not the applicant, but he's got the applicant's papers in hand, so, any questions?
Well, I had a question about the driveway. Is it the same driveway, or is that going to have porcelain tiles?
The plans that Walter has with the photograph shows a replacement of the existing driveway. The existing driveway is just concrete, so nice white solid concrete.
So
And this is
my question was,
just gonna be-
if they're going to put in tiles, can they?
no,
separate
they're
them?
not gonna. They're not putting in tile outside. They'll probably do a stamped concrete type design
Okay.
with some color in it.
Okay, that doesn't have to be in the plans? or-
Well, it has to be in the plans when it goes through plan check. In terms of the material, do you have any information, Jacqueline, about what the material is on the driveway?
As-
Actually, I can jump in. The driveway itself doesn't usually go through plan check. So what would go to building and safety plan check would just be the structure. And if they were doing other grading on site, then that would be included. Typically, we don't issue permits for driveway. On a project where they're adding on to the structure or adding on to the house, we do look at impervious surfaces and the pervious surface requirement. So to the extent that they meet their pervious surface requirement elsewhere, the driveway is a non-issue.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Smith. Again, please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening. My name is Walter Smith. I live in Calabasas, California. 2G656 Jameson Drive.
Do you have anything to tell us, or are you here to
I'm not
answer
really here to
questions?
present because unfortunately I don't know as much detail as I would like to know and be able to present proactively, but I can't answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions on this end? No? Any questions on this end?
The question about the color of the home, I know that she had leaned towards this apricot color that was a nearby home had that color. Do you have that photo? It's on declaration.
Okay. Thank you.
I
Do you want
I
the
can pass that around so they can see
Commission
it.
Okay,
want to see
great.
that?
See, the ARP asks for specific colors because they have different colors.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think the other gentleman suggested he has some other pictures of landscaping and stuff.
Do you have other pictures?
I have a rendering. It doesn't show the two windows. So I don't know if this is helping or.
Well, is that,
I mean,
is this
yeah.
a rendering other than what we have in our packet? I tell you what, Jacqueline or Tom, can you take a look at that and see if that's in addition to what is already in the packet and part of the record?
Looks like the same rendering that's in the packet.
Okay, all right, then that doesn't add anything.
I know the.
Sure.
This gentleman, excuse me, Mr. Smith.
Sure.
This picture that you just sent around, this is the neighbor that your sister likes, this house, is that right?
Yeah, she liked the color.
Okay. And this is, and do you think this is the color, the actual color that she's proposing for the remodeling
Yeah,
of hers?
yes, I know that's the one that she would prefer,
Okay,
but, you know.
that explains it,
Well,
okay.
and that's on the color palette that we have.
Yeah, but it's a.
Or materials
I
palette.
know, but it's a different, very different look.
It's a stronger apricot than showing on that paper, but again, printing,
Yeah,
Who knows?
it-
Yeah.
but it's closer to the one on that page,
Yeah.
that 302, at the,
Well, there's nothing wrong with the color. It's not pink and not purple.
no, the ARP was
Well, and-
complaining that they're different colors on different places.
I see.
Well, but I believe what the
sounds like that's been
ARP
corrected.
approved- I'm sorry?
Yeah, it
That's
sounds
been
like the-
corrected, and that's what was corrected is reflected on Exhibit C, correct?
Yes, Exhibit C, and then the elevations is at A 3.02 have the specific name of the stucco. So it shows up slightly differently as paint colors and stucco colors do, but the name of the specific color is consistent.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions of Mr. Smith?
I do have one. Thank you for being here and testifying for your neighbor and friend. My comment initially had to do with the landscaping that's shown on the existing property, in which most of us are suffering with some dead lawn or some dead landscaping. And now, in a way, it's maybe fortunate because after the Woolsey fire, a lot of change has been coming all of our way, in Calabasas and all over the Santa Monica Mountains. So as this home is moving forward toward the street, because the lot is a pretty generous lot, on the impression that's on the screen right now, what you're going to see is the house is literally marching toward the street.
Right.
And it'll be essentially a two-story elevation. And it almost begs the question of what will be the landscaping approach. And I would recommend at least that the people who are responsible for making these changes talk to the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District, because they have all kinds of help to be able to deal with landscaping that's relatively modest, and in some cases they even provide you with discounts on sprinkler controllers and sprinkler heads and things like that.
Yeah, great.
So I would say to you and to anyone, frankly, who's looking at modifying their landscaping or updating it or making new, that it would be wise to deal with the issue of the heat island effect as climate does change and as temperature. I mean, today it was 104 when I was parked at the Commons. So it's something we're all very conscious of now, but what to do about it is always the big problem. So instead of being critical, I'm suggesting that to defend the investment in this property as it's being changed, that you look at what can be done to cool the property and shade the property and make it more scenic and aesthetically pleasing. And there's help available. And it might even be worthwhile to see what their water resources, and they have compost that you can go over and pick up and put in your gardening as well. So all of that would vastly improve what my impression of this property is. I wouldn't not approve it on the basis of the landscaping issues, but it's an opportunity and a moment in time where it's really valuable for you, the two of you that have spoken, in your homes, as well as helping this woman deal with the changes that she's anticipating to this property.
All right.
So my question at the end of all that diatribe is, do you think that she will be interested in making that effort?
Absolutely. I mean, those are all concerns of hers that she is already anticipating and thinking about. It didn't fit within the scope of this project to redo the whole landscape as well, but it's very much on her mind. It's been on her mind since she moved in, because right after she moved in, her brand new lawn, went brown. And,
I know.
And so.
Well, two more things that are pertinent to this, and I would recommend that, unless there's a resistance of some kind, that in Calabasas we have basically a 501c3 that does home inspections for fire preparedness and public safety. I have to remember, what's the acronym that they go to? ECHO.
EPIC.
ECHO is the radio.
EPIC, EPIC.
EPIC, environmental, what is it?
Emergency Preparedness in Calabasas.
Right, but it's really, it's being conscious of what your landscaping impacts are on your public safety at the property level. So that's one resource. The other is the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. They're on Las Virgenes now, just upstairs from La Paz Restaurant. And they have an inspection and advisory team that can help you deal with choosing the right plants and dealing with the right watering regime and with all the help that might come your way or their way in order to improve the property and actually help the neighbors, because anything that improves the fire and public safety issues of one property helps us all.
Absolutely, yeah.
So-
I appreciate your
All right.
informing
It
me
is a
of all
question,
these
but it's an
resources.
answer
It's
as
great.
well.
The
So-
question and the answer. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Do we have any comments? Do we have a motion?
Just last comment. I noticed that the fencing just now, the peripheral fencing color does match the house itself. Only one suggestion, since we're talking about almost everything but the addition, we're talking about driveways and landscaping. Just paint those. It looks lovely with, the one color, and the new color I think is great too.
I would suspect that they will probably make sure that the fence is in keeping with whatever they're adding, if that fence is going to remain. Okay. Thank you for that, though. All right. Any other comments, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, and that is to ask or direct the staff to prepare a resolution for approval of the project as presented with the changes and the suggestions tonight.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To understand the motion, when Commissioner Washburn said with the changes, what changes
Well-
were you thinking of? I don't recall that anything was changed.
Well, if they're not requirements,
Right.
they,
Suggestions?
Oh,
do they belong in the
I'll make the simpler
resolution?
motion. I recommend that, recommend that we direct staff to prepare a resolution approving this project.
Okay. Do we have a second? Yeah, I'll second it. All right. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just
Sure.
personally, and I know your sister, I guess, likes this apricot color. I personally think that the rendering on A302 is better than the apricot. The apricot is really dark, and if you're, I looked it up. It is apricot. They call it larkspur or whatever, and La Habra is just the manufacturer. The stucco manufacturer. But anyway, I think it's too dark, and I actually prefer one window instead of the two, and so I would look into that and definitely follow Dennis's suggestions. My daughter just got a landscape approval by what's it called, Metropolitan Water District, because they're the ones who actually give you funding to do landscaping. Because this
As a request.
Pardon me?
right? You're just
These are
making
just
it-
suggestions. They're, that's all.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last thing that you said.
On the landscaping, because there's no landscaping plan, and that dead lawn doesn't look very good. And
Yeah.
and as it says in here, you're going to keep the same landscaping, which, as John said, isn't a great idea. And one tree, you didn't even specify what kind. I hope it's a big tree that can, native tree that can take our weather or our upcoming weather.
I have one other suggestion to that point.
Yeah, go ahead.
The city of Calabasas has had a program to actually provide street trees and appropriate street trees in the parkways, which are, interestingly enough, a little, I guess, misunderstood as to who's in charge of the parkways in the city of Calabasas, sidewalks, curbs and gutters, et cetera. But correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, don't we still have a program, or did we have to defund that?
I'm not aware of that program currently.
Well, we might want to ask it to come back, because street trees would actually make this thing, basically free. You dig a hole, put a tree in and water it, And,
Ask who to come back.
pardon?
Ask who
It
to
was the
come
tree
back.
board that established the guidelines for each street,
Well, you know, because
the trees for each
the
street.
city did install a number of street trees at the request of homeowners in town a few years back. And
I do think we're getting off
But, yeah,
tangent, though, on the
well,
motion.
That's my concern
I'm
here.
just
Well,
saying that it would resolve the issues that John and Michael and I have raised, and that is, you know, if we can get some help with the landscaping, go for it.
Well, it will be up
Put it
to
in
the
a tree.
homeowner. It
We're a
will-
Tree City USA.
It will
Come
be
on.
up, to- hold on. We're getting far afield of what is before us tonight.
Well, I made the
And
motion,
if
so.
if
So,
the,
Madam Chair,
yes,
just for clarity of the motion, is for approval as is.
Prepare a recommendation.
Yeah, but these
So
are
I'll-
just, these
for
are just comments that we're making, suggestions and hopes.
Right, with the
Yeah.
clarity that it's approval as is.
Yes.
That's
Well, that was the motion.
Right.
But we're
okay.
just making
Okay.
suggestions.
Yeah.
or-
Okay.
all right, and
I'd like
Is
to,
there-
excuse me, as a point of order, I'd like to ask the commissioners to remember that these microphones are directional. So if you're speaking
Oh,
away from the microphone, it will not pick you up.
okay.
So please try to keep your direction consistent toward the microphones and it will pick you up. Some people have not been able to hear what's being said.
okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to direct staff to prepare a resolution approving this project, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. This passes 5-0. Congratulations to your sister. The project is approved. Well, the project will be approved at our next meeting.
She'll appreciate all the suggestions. She will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a landscape architect here, gentlemen? Okay, terrific. We're going to go, give me just a minute to get the paperwork, and we're going to go back to item number 3 on the agenda. And I'm going to ask, do we have a speaker card from the landscape architect? Sir, can I ask you?
Chair Fassberg, excuse me.
Yeah.
We might want to give Commissioner Washburn an opportunity to recuse himself again.
Well, while that speaker card, while that,
I hope you
While
didn't say
that-
relieve myself.
while that speaker card is being filled out, thank you for that, Tom. While the speaker card is being filled out, Commissioner Washburn will make his way down to the seats, the other seats. Mr. Washburn, I do have a speaker card from you. I assume you want to hear, before you come up and speak, would you like to wait until after the landscape architect has spoken? We can do that. We're always looking to, thank you, to meet the needs of the public, so you're one of them. Okay. Mr. Campbell, Richard Campbell, can you come on up? And please state your name and your city of residence.
Commissioners, Richard Campbell, Thousand Oaks, California.
Okay, thank you. Now, you weren't here to hear the questions of some of the commissioners, the concerns of some of the commissioners. So I think what I'm going to do, unless you have a presentation of some sort, I'm going to ask the commissioners to re-ask their questions and restate their comments. Do you have something that you want to present?
Just one thing. I did not do the landscape plan. I just helped the architect through it. So I made suggestions, but I can answer questions about it because I went over it thoroughly.
Okay. All right, let's start over on my right. Commissioner Mueller, you have anything?
Yes, good evening. I was just comparing the original plan that was presented back in June to the revised plan that is presented tonight. And I understand that there was a removal of a lot of plants that really, I guess, had not really been intended for the project. They got in on the first plan, but they've since been removed. You understand that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But
So-
I think that's up to the applicant to answer that question, why they came out and why they're not in there.
Okay, well, that is.
I'm just going to respond to the plants that are on the, excuse me, on the plan.
Okay.
And also, I'm the arborist, so I understand there's some questions about the oak trees, the replacement trees.
Well, okay, someone else has asked that
Yeah.
question, I'll let them ask that question, but my question is, when we look at the new plan, tonight's plan, you basically have, putting aside the oak trees, 3 plants, 3 new things going in. The aloes, the Rogers Red, and the Toyon,
Toyo,
correct?
correct.
And this is all going in the front, as you face the house, these are on Calapatria, correct? And they're kind of on the right side of the property?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would be the west side.
Yeah,
And,
northwest.
and they are in addition to what is already there, so if, I don't know if it's on the screen. Yeah, you can see the
Yeah,
current
it's-
landscape plan has that.
It's pretty thick, a couple of elms and another landscape tree and then a lot of undergrowth.
Right, and my question, one, is that all remaining?
Well, that's going to be determined when we get out there. We'll have to put some of these plants between them. The smaller ones, the vine and the aloes are small. They're just going to go up on the top of the slope along the edge of the walk.
Okay, because I thought this wild grape plant, which I think it is a California native,
Yeah,
can really grow high if it attaches to other stuff,
yeah.
right? Is that the?
They're going to have to skirt those trees up so it doesn't do that.
Oh, so it doesn't. We don't want it to do
We
that.
don't want it to do that.
We want it
We
more
it
as
to
a
spread on
ground
the
cover?
ground, right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's to act as a ground cover.
And then the aloes, they're I don't. It looks like
They're
there's
just
only 3.
accents.
Yeah, and they're kind of the
Just-
standard
yeah.
African aloe that is now closer to the house.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see those from the street.
With all this vegetation, you won't.
And
That's
and-
for their benefit, so they have some landscaping to look at as they walk around the house.
I see. Because really what I'm driving at is this is I'm wondering what the screening, when this new landscaping goes in, coupled with the existing landscaping, trimmed up as it may be, how much screening of the house from Calapatria will be accomplished?
A lot, because the toyons are going to grow, and the toyon is going to match the one that's on the east side of the driveway. There's an existing one there that's huge. It's like 12 by 12.
An existing toyon.
Yeah,
In other words, as you're on the driveway to the
the
left?
left side, right.
Okay. And so there's kind of a compatibility between the toyons
That's what
on
we were
both
looking
sides.
at, yes.
And is it your sense that this landscape plan is intended to screen this nice big new house?
That's what the commission talked about at the last meeting. But now that they've changed the architecture, that opinion may change. I don't know what
They
you feel
changed
about
it.
the architecture.
Yeah, they changed it somewhat.
But that was the direction I was given. What would you do to veil or screen the building from Calapatria? And the Toyons will do a great job of that.
And they
In
were not,
addition to the existing.
they were not in the original plan?
No,
Okay.
there were no Toyons. They had left that out. They just had it on the list.
And I think you said you can't testify as to why lots of things that were on the west side have been, I'm sorry, on the east side of the driveway have been removed from the plan. All we're going to have on the east side is there's two oak trees those two oak trees are going to remain. There's not new planting, am I correct?
No, that's all to remain existing.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge toyon up by the driveway. And I wouldn't put any other shrubs in there. And the ground covers are doing a fine job of erosion control now.
The ground cover today?
Yeah.
You've been
I
up
mean,
there
it needs to
recently?
be watered.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So, but just to answer my question is there's no new planting on the east side of this property,
No. East or south.
east or south, okay.
There's
And you
an
don't know why,
existing
and you don't
hedge.
know why because that's someone else's area? Or
Well,
you think it's
the owner-
adequate?
That's what the owners decided.
You would agree with me that there's quite a bit of room on the east side for additional planting?
There's room for plants, but that's not my decision.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
All right, Commissioner Harrison.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. So I had concerns about the two new oak trees. Oh, I have to talk in this, don't I? I have concern about the two new oak trees, number 4 in the front on the right side when you're looking at the house. The plan doesn't specify what kind of oak tree they are, and it looks like they're about a foot apart. So what is that?
Well, the scale is 1/16 scale,
How far apart are they?
about 8 feet. But to plant a 36-inch box, that's 3 feet. You're supposed to put twice as large of a pit. So that
All right,
makes it
excuse me, it doesn't say 36-inch box, it just says a 3-inch new oak tree.
Oh.
So I have no idea what kind of
Well-
oak, and 3-inch doesn't mean much to me as far as the size.
Yeah, well, that could be a large 24 or a small 36, so, yeah. So if you agree to the 3-inch, then they can buy a 24-inch box or a 36-inch box. In any event, you plant the tree twice as wide as the root ball.
All right, but you're saying, just answer though, are they going to be, it's going to be 8 feet apart?
8 feet apart.
And is there any reason why you can't plant an oak on the other side of the driveway?
Yeah, because there's a huge pine there and the existing toyon is there.
So we don't have that, so we don't.
I didn't think there was enough room there.
Okay.
And in nature, just to give you.
No, I don't
an
need
idea.
anything else.
Okay.
We don't have those, we don't have really a photo of what the other side of the driveway might look like. And it's not in this landscape plan for some reason. What kind of oak tree is it?
Well, I was thinking they would put Quercus agrifolias in to match the one that was removed.
Good, so can we specify that?
Sure.
Because it doesn't say, it just says
Yeah,
oak tree.
you can put that in the conditions.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? Nope. Commissioner Leah? Commissioner Zeddy? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Mr. Washburn, have a speaker card. Please state your name and city of residence.
Dennis Washburn, Calabasas.
Thank you.
And what I have is actually questions, because I'm not in opposition to anything on the property, except the non-specificity of the landscaping in the front. You know, the building that's going on this property is moved, if you go back to the original first presentation of the old house that used to be on there, it's substantially farther back or to the south of Calipatria Drive, like many of the houses, including mine and everybody up and down Calipatria on the south side. So the house or the residence is being moved forward almost 40 feet. And it's not a complaint, it's just that's what's happened. And then the front yard landscaping is in the green zone on this slide, identifies essentially the two new 3-inch oak trees. Doesn't, as one of the commissioners has said, it doesn't specify what kind of oak. And where they're located on this, at this point, are they going to be in addition to the oak tree that is already there on the property? There's a 15-year-old Quercus agrifolia on the property there as we speak. And it's not shown, and it isn't shown as to whether it's going to be removed along with everything else that's on the front yard, because there's lots of Chinese elms. They grow like weeds. And all the greenery you see there, most of that's Chinese elm, and they're hiding that 15-foot, 15-year-old Quercus agrifolia. So frankly, they don't need to replace it because that tree is actually a very good tree. And it might save some money and time and aggravation and slope, erosion control and so forth. So I think specificity of the kinds of plantings there, not just that we're going to put in some toyon, and I mean toyon, they grow big. I have one on my property, in fact, right next door to the property line, and it's already 30 feet in the air and huge and lovely. And toyon, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a good tree to put in a planting, but it has to be designed in, and perhaps the architect will in fact describe what's going to happen with that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, I had a question. Dennis?
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
As a resident of Calapatria, are you aware of, at the end of the street, aren't there 4 homes that are pretty new relative to the rest of the homes?
Yeah, about 15, 20 years ago, there were very sizable homes that installed up there. And they are also much closer to the street, 3 out of the 4 anyway.
Yeah.
There's a very steep driveway.
Well, was there a mountain and a developer came in and carved it up and put in those 4 homes?
Yeah, there was an intention at the time to put Calipatri through all the way up to the top of the residences that are up, in what was then called the Sunny Glen tract, and now it's, I think they call it Mulholland Heights, something like that.
Yeah.
But the residents on Calipatria and the citizens before incorporation actually said, we're not putting Calipatria through so that the water district can actually bring water over to Topanga so the Disney family could build a golf course and shopping centers in North Topanga Canyon. It was quite a thing, but simply stated, those 4 properties were done later. They're bigger than most of the houses on the street.
My question is, do you have any sense, and if you don't know, just tell me, but if you have any sense of what size those homes are?
I think the smallest of the 4 is something like 3,200 square feet.
And up, and then they go up?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions that the applicant, well, before I close the public hearing, are there any questions of the applicant remaining?
I
As
still have a
opposed to
question
us-
about the 2 oak trees, and maybe the staff can help.
In
So
term-
if you look at the key at the bottom, it has distances like 0 to 4 feet to 8 feet and so forth. There's no way those 2 oak trees are 8 feet apart. They look like they're 4 feet apart.
Okay, I think what would be helpful is if we just add as a condition that, because we already need to specify it's Quercus agrifolia.
Oh, yes.
So we say it's Quercus agrifolia and they shall be no closer than 8 feet.
Well, even 8 feet might be, John thinks that might even be
Well,
close.
Mr. Campbell's an arborist. We could certainly rely on his expertise, I think, to make sure they're specified in the correct way.
Well, he really didn't even know until Mr. Harrison brought it up, how close they were. So
I believe that he spoke about the practical necessity of planting a 24-inch or a 30.
How far apart?
Yeah.
But-
Because of the root ball and how large the hole needs to be, there is a practical necessity for them to be a certain distance apart, and I believe that he spoke about that.
He did
And that's
speak
where he
about
came
that.
up with the 8 feet.
Yeah, and he didn't seem to quite know whether it was 36 or 24
He
box.
said a large, well, he said
Just
3
to-
inch, he said 3 inches is going to be a large 24 or a small 36.
Commissioners,
I'm
if I could
gonna-
clarify that,
yeah.
in the tree report, it specifies 36-inch box, but because of the fact that our oak tree ordinance requires inch-for-inch mitigation, that's why the mitigation specifies 3-inch oak trees. In the report, it says those 3-inch diameter oak trees will be in the 36-inch box.
I'm not concerned about
Makes
the
sense.
the 3 inch. I'm concerned about the spacing, because the plan has them about 4 feet apart or
But
maybe
again,
6 feet.
This is
but
a
again,
this is a
Commissioner
conceptual
Harrison, hold on.
plan.
We can,
It was a
we can
con-
put it as a condition.
Yeah, this is a conceptual
Maybe at
plan. It
least
wasn't
8 feet
prepared by Mr. Campbell, so I think we just have to recognize that, generally speaking, that's where they're proposing to plant those 2 oak trees. I would leave it up to the arborist to determine the appropriate location in the field. But the requirement is that they'll plant 2 new trees. In the oak tree report, it specifies 36-inch box trees, and we can add the condition that it's the Quercus agrifolia.
Okay,
And-
may I ask a question?
All right, now I have.
Michael, I don't want to argue with you, but you say it's a conceptual plan. When does it become a real plan? And will we get a chance to look at the real plan? Who's going to approve the real plan? Because what the testimony I heard was that there's stuff going in, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the existing foliage in order to ensure that the ground cover stays ground cover and doesn't climb up. So it's conceptual, but it's quite vague as far as I'm concerned. And we've had testimony that the purpose of this landscaping is in large part to screen a new home, which is going to be much closer to the street than the original home. So I don't want to walk away from here and just say, well, this is just a conceptual plan and it'll get worked out later. By whom, and how do we know that it's going to be correct?
One of the reasons why it is conceptual is because it will still have to go through fire department review and approval, so they may actually not allow certain species. We don't have that information in front of us today, so that's why it remains as a conceptual plan. Eventually, as it goes through the process, then the conditions will be that it matches the concept. So they may have to change out some of those species, they may have to realign them a little bit, but it'll remain consistent with the concept that's in front of the commission today.
But who ultimately approves it after you go through all that?
Staff will approve it,
Okay.
yeah.
Right, so if I may, Madam Chair, there was testimony provided by a member of the public about an oak tree that already exists in the same area where these 2 new trees are proposed to be planted. I'm wondering if Mr. Campbell can address the commission about that, since he's the
Certainly.
arborist.
Thank you.
And he prepared the oak tree report.
Mr.
I don't know
Campbell,
if you all had a question about that, since that seemed inconsistent to staff anyway.
Okay, that's a good idea. Mr. Campbell, please come up. We still have the public hearing open. Did
Richard
you
Campbell,
get
Thousand
that?
Oaks.
Yep, thank you. You got the concept, you got the
Yeah, and
question.
I'm surprised because I missed that, and so did your arborist that went out there,
The existence of that,
the existence of that tree.
well,
So I
the
wasn't aware of
neighbor,
it.
Mr. Washburn, is a very perceptive and
Yeah, well,
knowledgeable
he's very perceptive, I know
person.
that.
So,
So if he found that oak tree there, it's there. So the only thing we can do at this point is prune everything away from it and give it a chance to grow. So that's what you could put in the conditions that allow available space for the oak tree to progress and grow. And then we can prune back whatever landscape trees are there.
all right.
If I'm not mistaken, you can see it in slide 3 on this photograph here. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Dennis can confirm, but it's on the right-hand side of the photo on the right. It looks like an oak tree, and it looks like the one Dennis would be mentioning. Is that it? No?
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah, we're talking about further toward the neighboring property.
East.
Okay,
Yeah, it's in the
All right.
bramble of all the vegetation that's overgrown.
Right, it's closer to the west property
So
line.
I missed it, and so did your arborist.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Campbell? Thank you, Mr. Campbell. You know, to me, this just points up the fact that there are conditions on this site with regard to landscaping that will have to be dealt with on-site as things progress, because there is a lot of landscaping there, and there's, pardon me, a bit of a mess. Things will have to be trimmed up, pruned, and they'll discover what exactly is there. You know, we can't micromanage the landscaping. There are certain things like the species of oak that is to go, the 2 oak trees that are to go in. If it gives a level of comfort, the distance, a minimum of 8 feet for them to be planted apart from each other. But beyond that, you know, we just can't, pardon my saying this, we cannot get into the weeds on this particular, I'm sorry, on this particular issue, because we don't truly know everything that is there. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on that. Okay, Mr. Campbell, it looks like you got one more shot here.
One
Yes.
little shot, please. In nature, when acorns fall, they don't fall 8 feet apart. So trees are often growing conjoined trunks from acorns falling. So they could be planted trunk to trunk or root ball to root ball. But I'm looking at it from a field standpoint that when we get out there, one tree might be a little more east, the other one might be up the slope, south and west, depending on where all this bramble is. I mean, we didn't get a survey on all that bramble.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I offer?
Yes.
So it sounds that all of the debate is basically because it's not about the protection of the tree, it's about the screening. And there's some micromanaging happening because of the screening, but there's no code restriction for the screening. So I just want to make sure that the commission knows that when making decisions about this.
Thank you, appreciate that. And that's why we're going to move on.
Well, I
All
think
right.
the screening came up because the applicant said everything would be screened, and that's because the house is
But
40 feet closer to the front, and it's massive. It's bigger, far bigger than anything in the neighborhood. So I think that's why it's an issue.
Understood, but that was also about appeasing the commission from the June 6th meeting. that the
Right, but
screening
that's
came
why
about.
it's significant, and also
So-
why we asked for plans, and these plans still don't even say what kind of oak tree or you know, how far apart they are.
So one suggestion then, moving forward, if the commission makes the recommendation to return with a resolution for approval, we can add a condition that requires the applicant to submit a final landscape plan prior to the issuance of a building permit, demonstrating that the front of the property will be screened from Calipatria, as long as there's the appropriate nexus within the findings that the additional screening along the front of the property will help make the structure and the building consistent and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. I think we can add a condition like that.
Thank
Good
you.
idea.
Thank you.
Great idea. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing. Any questions, any comments? Is there a motion?
Well, I have comments, but I can wait till there's after a motion.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion? If we can get a motion and a second on board, we can have some discussion here.
Make a motion for discussion.
Well, actually, the motion would be,
To deny then.
okay, is there a second?
Wait, I'm sorry, you have a motion to deny based off of what findings? Can you make sure that's in your
I'm
motion?
sorry,
Can you make sure,
A motion to deny the project
based on,
based on the information we had
Oh,
before us
we need
the past two meetings.
well, can you make in your motion specific, because we have to prepare a resolution? So
Well, you could say, for example, it's not compatible with the neighborhood.
Clearly, yes.
So, okay.
That's
right.
one of the findings we had to.
So he needs a second.
Is there a second? All right, is there an alternative motion?
I tried.
I have a question. I just noticed that compared to the previous approval we just made on the addition, it's specifically said in the addition packet that the ARP said that it does match the aesthetics of the neighborhood, but I noticed here it doesn't say that verbatim. It just says the ARP recommended approval of the project. Does that mean that the ARP found that it matches the aesthetics of the surrounding area?
The new project or the old one?
So, the new project, as it's proposed right now, it does say the ARP recommends approval of the project. I'm just comparing it to the previous packet for the addition.
So I guess the
Jacqueline, well,
question.
hold on.
Did the ARP
Jack-
review it? Yeah.
Jacqueline, do you have an answer to that question?
Yeah, so just to clarify, the ARP had recommended approval of the original design, which had the flat roof and the marble slab. So the fact that the ARP recommended approval, it's implied that it's consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. But the current design that you see before you did not go back to the ARP because of the fact that the changes to the architecture were initiated by the commission. So the commission asked them to revise the design, therefore it didn't go back to the architectural review panel because they had already recommended approval of a
I
different
think
design.
if I can,
Let me talk about the
Hang
ARP.
on. Hang on. Commissioner Mueller.
I understand what you just said, Jacqueline. I'm not sure that was completely responsive to Commissioner Zaina's question. Did the ARP make a specific finding, not implied, but specific, that this, the original, I know, but it's close enough, the original 4,800 square foot, whatever, is in fact compatible with the architecture of the surrounding neighborhood? I know you can imply that.
The ARP doesn't have specific findings that they look at, so they do have a list of duties, which includes finding that projects are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. But when they make a motion, they don't have a specific set of findings like the commission does because they're not approving a project, they're just making a recommendation. We have tried to clean that up for projects that are going through the process now, but this project went through the process.
Well, I want to clarify too, the findings that are related to a site plan review, which is what the ARP is providing a recommendation on based off of the findings that a project is compatible in size and scale with the surrounding neighborhood, or compatible in general, not just specifically to size and scale. Compatibility does not mean that it has to match the architecture of the neighborhood or be exactly the same as everything around it. It's on a case-by-case basis, and the ARP makes a recommendation based on the overall compatibility, and it doesn't have to match the architecture.
Thank you, Michael. I think the key word I'm pointing out, again, back to the previous project we approved, is the word aesthetics, right? And I think that's the hang-up here is, to me, and I think to Commissioner Robert, it doesn't match the aesthetics of the surrounding area. And size and scale aside.
There's no code requirement for.
Well, it has to be compatible with the neighborhood, and I think, I agree with you, it's not necessarily compatible, but the scale is troubling.
Well, you know what? I think that absent a motion by any of the other commissioners, I'm going to move that we instruct staff to prepare a resolution of approval for the project with the added conditions that a final landscape plan will be submitted and approved, showing the screening from the street, from Calapatria, designating the type of the two oaks to match the existing, and to I believe to match what is being taken off of what is being taken down. And if it's important to Commissioner Harrison that there be the proviso that the 2 oak trees will be planted at least 8 feet apart. That's the motion.
Pardon
And the
me,
same
Chair
oak tree.
Fosberg,
Yes.
nothing in your motion mentioned anything about the existing tree that came to everybody's attention this evening on that other side and preserving that. Did you want to include that as part of your motion?
Well, there's not a permit being sought to remove that tree.
Right.
So by default, that tree cannot be removed under our code.
Right.
So I don't know that, I mean,
You don't need a condition.
I don't think that we need a condition.
I'm going to second the motion, and I'd like to speak to the second at the appropriate time.
Okay. I have some things to say, but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is a close case for me, but I seconded it, which means I'm in favor of the approval. The scale is pretty significantly larger than what's in the neighborhood. I calculated that with respect to the average homes that were looked at by staff, and we now know that they look within 300 feet, it's about 42% larger than the average, okay? We just had a case. I know it's not a precedent. I know I'm not supposed to talk about other cases. We just proved one tonight that was 30, I pointed out 30+%, around 30%. So we've approved 30% graders than averages, and now we're looking at one that's in the 40% range. It's another 10%, I understand. That's a significant difference. But I'm also mindful, I live in the neighborhood, and having driven up there and having seen a variety of homes, not quite as many remodels as other parts of Calabasas, but some remodeling. And then I did recall those homes at the end. Now, those homes at the end of Calipatria, and we have testimony from Mr. Washburn that they're 3,200 square feet and up. And I think for my eyeballing, and I guess I'm not supposed to provide evidentiary testimony, but they're big, and they're on the same street, and they're at the end of the street, and they're probably not within the 300-foot, because they're way up at the end of Calipatria. So that's why you didn't look at them. But they are there, and they're on the same street, and I think anybody would reasonably argue they're in the neighborhood. So there are big houses in the neighborhood at the end of the street on which this project is proposed, okay? So I can get over the scaling problem with a difficult swallow, but I can do it. And then there is the compatibility of the architecture issue. I think the finding, whether it's implied or expressed, that the ARP makes is relevant. I think that's relevant information. If they found this to be architecturally incompatible, presumably they would have told us that. I think, frankly, I don't think it's a surprise that this architecture is becoming more and more common. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, drive around the West Valley. A lot of houses look like this, a lot of houses in Calabasas, a lot of houses on Paul Revere are starting to look like this. And it's irrelevant whether it's my favorite design or anyone else's favorite design. The only legal issue is whether or not it's architecturally compatible. Now, you may say, well, if it's architecturally compatible, why are they trying to screen it? Don't you want to show it off? That's a reasonable question. However, I think what Michael said was very relevant and important, and that is screening can be designed in a way to assist in the, and I can't remember the exact term, but not the compatibility of the architecture, but the compatibility of the home in its setting, all right, in its environmental setting. I like the idea of a home going into this empty lot. I think it's just a blight as it currently exists. I do think in terms of the actual project, the actual home, if you like that style, I think it looks pretty good, and I think the slight reduction in size and the roof addition and the elimination of that marble slab are all directionally good and relevant. So while I think it's a very close call, and I certainly respect the commissioners who may disagree with me, I find it, I'm compelled to make the applicable findings to approve.
Thank you. And I'll just add to that. I agree with everything that Commissioner Mueller said, both from a legal standpoint, from the standpoint of what this commission is tasked to do, and the constraints under which we are supposed to be working in making our decisions. You know, I know that there is a tendency of some of the more mature residents not to want any change, not to want any change in size, scale, design. But the fact of the matter is the world does change. The world is changing. And Calabasas, there are some changes that have occurred. This design is not new to Calabasas. This more modern design, we're seeing more and more of it. It's what people want. And you know, there are growing families coming into Calabasas, moving around in Calabasas, that need homes of a certain size. Now, if this project came in and it was 8,000, 10,000 square feet, well, that's nonsense, you know, in this kind of community. But I don't see a significant enough difference in the scale of this project to other homes in the area, and other homes that may not be within the 300 feet. But there are homes this size going in, and like it or not, that takes what we are tasked with, and the constraints that we are under, and it puts this project right in the middle of being compatible in both scale and design. Maybe not with the next door neighbor, but with the area. And I don't see a basis to deny this project based upon a lack of compatibility. I see every reason to approve it at this time. And I am mindful of what Commissioner Mueller said, and the fact that it may be a moderately close call, but given what we are tasked with, I think that this project should be approved. Do we have other comments?
Yes, this project is absurd. If you look at the list of houses here, your comments are way off the record. If the ARP did the job they were supposed to do and comment on scale.
Commissioner Leo, would you be
never
able to
do.
speak into the microphone? We can't hear you.
If the ARP did the job they were supposed to do, and that's comment on scale, they never do. They didn't do it in this project. They didn't do it in the earlier project. They never do it. Why?
Is that a rhetorical question, or
No,
are
it's
you
not a
seeking an
rhetorical
answer?
question.
We've given the ARP what their duties are. They provide a recommendation to the Planning Commission. They understand that the findings include compatibility.
I suggest you review the charter as listed on the city website. They are supposed to comment on scale,
Scale goes beyond just a number, so
but
scale
they don't
can,
comment on scale at all.
they are making simply a recommendation. They're not making the findings. That is up to the Planning Commission to make the findings.
The ARP, excuse
Then
me.
why do their minutes say that they approved the project?
The ARP definitely includes scale in their review. What they're required to do is to incorporate an assessment of scale and design in their review. They're not required to necessarily comment specifically on scale by itself.
So what you're saying is it's implicit
That's
in a
correct.
finding of approval by the ARP that they have determined that it meets scale, that it meets design criterion, correct?
That's correct.
And they do not typically, they don't have findings as we do.
That's correct.
They come up with a conclusion, and it is inherent in that conclusion that they have reviewed and found compatibility.
That's correct, and they don't have findings because they're not a decision-making body.
Okay.
Your minutes belie that statement, Tom. You say they approved the project. They don't have the authority.
I said
or
they
the
recommended
responsibility
approval.
to approve projects.
Well, Madam Chair.
They're,
just
they're
right.
making a
All right.
recommendation.
decorum,
Yeah.
just, if you can move.
Yeah. Look, we're looking for comments on the project. We're not looking for attacks on any individuals or on any bodies. So if there are further comments, Commissioner Harrison.
Yeah, having served on the ARP for many years, I can tell you that those kind of issues just don't come up all the time. So they probably didn't. And the fact that they recommended approval of the previous version says everything, because that's completely incompatible. The previous version, to me anyway, is completely incompatible with the neighborhood, you know, with the marble wall and the flat roof and all that. So they're not always looking at those things regardless of what it says in the charter. I do want to say to the architect, where are you? There you are. Okay. I mean, I really appreciate what you've done, changing the roof and eliminating the marble dividing wall and you know, that divider in the middle, and eliminating all those. I mean, it must have been 20 or 30 downlights all around, and just changing the style. I do think it's much better. The architecture, I really appreciate it. I'm a little concerned about the moving this house. I think, as one person testified, like 40 feet forward, because it's on a hill, to me, at least from what I can see. So it's dominating, and so I'm hopeful that it can be screened. And you said there would be lush landscaping and so forth. It's hard for me to see because it's not even all here on the plan, and I think that's what staff said, that they would. Or that they would require that.
And it is part of the, it is part of the motion.
Right.
That there would be a final landscape plan
and
submitted showing the screening and
right,
subject to approval by.
Because it's sitting on a hill, it's significant to me. You know, this big house, and it's bigger than anything in the whole neighborhood, you know, sitting on a hill. But if it's, the drawing says that, I'm sorry, I got to talk into this, right? So the drawing says that the driveway is about 28 feet back or something like that from the street. Is that where the front of the house is? I can't quite figure this out. I see some sort of setback, but I don't know what that is. Not the driveway, but is that the walkway and the, like, where's the sidewalk here? I don't see a sidewalk, so I can't tell.
Could you please reference what sheet you're looking at?
Oh, A1.02.
The actual line of the sidewalk isn't showing up in this image. I think it was a layer issue, but let me move my cursor. You can kind of see the arrow pointing to where that line would have been.
Well, I don't see your cursor.
Let me,
Oh,
here, there's a little label right here that says sidewalk and parkway, but I think there's just an issue with the this version of the plans, there should be a line right there, and then this arrow points to the edge of the curb. So it
the
should be,
sidewalk is pretty close to those front steps then?
so
Or-
it should be, yeah, edge of curb. This label says parkway, this label says sidewalk, so there should be a line here.
So then it's less than, okay, so I don't know what that 28 feet is that's showing up. That's half of the street, or that's the width of the street, right? And then looking at A1.02, it's just unclear to me. You have this 28 feet, you're calling out 28 feet, but that's either to the other side of Calabasas?
No, that's to the center line of the street.
The center line, okay. But the line then on the front of the house, is that where the sidewalk is?
Yes, and then there's 10 feet total of sidewalk and parkway between the front of the house and then the curb.
So what's the distance between the front of the steps there, where you are on the, on the sidewalk, and the house? Is it like 20 feet?
The front setback is 22 feet. Are you talking about from the property line?
Yeah.
From the property line to the structure is 22 feet.
Yeah, so that to me is too small for such a massive front.
The front yard setback by code is, minimum is 20 feet.
Yeah, but to be compatible with the neighborhood, I think it's not really. It's too massive for that.
Just to clarify that, this dashed line that you see right here is the 20-foot minimum setback line.
Okay, so they've made the
So-
20-foot legal limit.
Yeah,
but-
they're a
But to
little
be
bit past that.
compatible, I mean, this house is massive in the front, and so that's my concern, if they could move it back a little bit or something. I don't know why they can't move the whole thing back, 5 feet or 10 feet, but, so that's my biggest concern.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. We have, I'm sorry, I was away from the microphone. I asked for further discussion and did not get a response. So we have a motion, we have a second. Everybody clear on what the motion is? Yep. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay.
Could we please get that clear as to which commissioners were in favor and which were not? Maybe a roll call vote
All right.
for the minutes.
Commissioner Mueller?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
No.
I am an aye. Commissioner Leah?
No.
And Commissioner Jose?
No.
Then the motion to instruct staff to prepare an approval fails. There is no other motion before the commission at this time.
I would suggest another motion to recommend staff return with a resolution for denial, and then have another vote on that.
Okay, well, we already had a motion before, it did not receive a second.
Okay,
Shall we,
Maybe
would somebody,
perhaps the commissioners could think of something else in the way of a motion
Well,
asking
maybe-
staff
maybe
to
include
prepare
some-
an approval with other conditions. I'm not sure.
Or include some direction on the findings for denial.
right, I mean, but I don't know, is the applicant willing to move the house back 5 or 10 feet? I mean, that would help me a lot.
That would help me too. That would help me too.
So is that the
all right,
only-
I'm going to go ahead and,
So move the house back 5 feet. because-
Well, I
hold
don't
on.
know the answer.
I understand, but I just want to get
Oh.
something clear, because I want to make sure that we all know the applicant has come back with changes. So the commission is asking for approval, move it back 5 feet. Madam Chair, can we get clarification on what the commission is requiring for approval?
yeah. First, let's find out if the applicant is willing to do it, and then we can move on from there. I'm going to reopen the public hearing. Would the applicant please come up?
If you're looking at the footprint that we can build is almost like 30% of lots is hillside, so you cannot build on. And with that, the reason we pushed a little bit toward the Calipatria to have a yard, backyard for the family that living. But we are open to push back 5 feet, because if you're pushing 10 feet, there is no backyard for this house. So we have to have some kind of balance between the front yard and backyard. So 5 feet, I think we are okay.
Well, can you do it in parts? Like, so right now, you know, it's pretty straight across, and in the backyard towards the pool, I get 5 feet might be all you can go. But on the left side, if you're looking at the front, there's a lot more footage. Can you go back, say, 10 feet? So the house isn't just straight across. It has some more articulation.
There may be
Oh.
slope issues on that side.
On this side
Is
back
that-
here? Okay.
Right here.
There is? Oh,
There's-
okay.
That's why there's a
Oh,
retaining wall.
I see. Okay. Is that
All right,
enough
thank
for
you.
the other commissioners?
Thank you.
5 feet?
Well,
Is that?
thank you. Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. So the question is, I'm a little concerned because the applicant was here, the commissioners provided concerns and areas where they wanted to see changes. Changes were made in response to those concerns. The applicant has come back and just faced a denial. So, and each time they come back, obviously, money is spent, time is spent. Just to throw this out there, would the commissioners, at least one of the commissioners who voted against approval, be willing to vote in favor of a motion to approve subject to, and we get it a little tricky here.
If I may help, right now the house is at 22 feet from the front property line. I'm hearing 5 feet as a minimum distance. It can be approved with the requirement that the house is set back at least 27 feet from the front property line. Doesn't have to come back to the planning commission. It's just shifting the house 5 more feet.
And that's numbers, so it's easy to
Condition it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, would that do it for you?
That will help, yes.
You could,
Because we're going to take a vote on it.
Okay.
Do we have an existing approved motion of denial? How are you getting around
We-
that?
no,
There would
we
have to
don't
be a new
we don't-
motion.
Well, hold
We
on,
had
hold
no
on,
mo-
hold on. Commissioner Leah, we do not have an
Another
approved vote for denial. We have a denied vote for approval. They're not the same.
Fine.
It's not semantics.
How do we get around that?
Well, there'll have to be a new
Well,
motion.
there would be a new motion. There would be a new motion with
You
the
guys will
same.
do anything.
oh, it's either a new motion to deny, or it's a new motion to approve with a additional condition, or it's a motion to continue. I mean, those are the choices.
Correct.
And
So-
what I'm hearing the chair say is that someone can make a new motion to approve, subject to a additional new condition that the house be set back 27 feet
27 feet from the front
from the front
line.
property line.
Right, and
In addition to the other conditions.
Right, I would make that motion in addition to the conditions
The
we
three-
already.
Yes.
The three, in addition to
Yes.
the 3 conditions that were part of the
first
initial motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
For
So do we
clarity-
have a motion?
For clarity, can you repeat those conditions?
Absolutely. First one is that a final landscape plan will be submitted to the city showing the screening from the street. And obviously be subject to approval by the city, by staff. The second is that the 2 oak trees that are to be planted that were designated as number 2 on the landscape plan be of the same type of oak that was removed, or that is being removed.
Quercus agrifolia,
Right.
Was it the same type or was it the space?
same species.
Same
Same
species.
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 And
Coastline.
I don't know how to spell
Quercus
that.
agrifolia.
Okay.
Okay. And number 3, that those 2 oak trees being planted would be planted at least 8 feet apart from each other.
Right.
Those conditions plus the front setback of 27 feet
Yes.
as a condition. So do we have a motion with,
I make that
motion to
motion.
approve with those 4
Yeah,
conditions?
I made that motion. Yes.
Thank you.
I'll
Is there s-
second.
Okay. All in favor? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. That's 5-0.
Oh, Bob's in favor?
I did not hear a name.
Okay.
All right.
5-0.
Did he vote?
What was,
Commissioner-
just to
You
clarify
want a roll
for the
call?
minutes,
Yeah, we better take a roll
were
call.
there, yeah, please, thank
Commissioner Mueller?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison? Aye. Commissioner Leah?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
So we have a 5-0 approval with those 4 additional conditions. The next meeting, there will be the actual approval. Staff can explain it to you. And good luck to you. Sure, if you want one, then, yeah. There is one more item. And everybody need a break, or? I'm okay. If you need. Okay, let's take a truly 5-minute break, please. Okay, we are back, and we are on to item number 5, which is a discussion item. And this is back to us, and this is the discussion of updates to Section 17.30 signs of the California Municipal Code. The Calabasas Municipal Code to permit digital kiosks with security cameras in shopping centers. Now, I don't know if there's a further presentation. What I would like to do, is there a further presentation?
There can be. What would Madam Chair
what I
want
would
to do?
what I would like to do, I know that we have Captain Cito here to answer questions related to the Sheriff's Department involvement with the security aspect of these proposed signs. And she has been very kind to be here, and we would like to get her up answering any questions that you may have so we can let her go. So is everybody on board with that? You have your questions teed up in terms of security questions and the Sheriff's Department? Okay. Captain Cito, can you come up, please? Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
All right. Who wants to start with questions? Okay.
I don't have many. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
What I'm curious about is the experience of the city and the Sheriff's Department in handling camera footage in general. Who monitors it? How much is it monitored? What is the response? And the reason I ask this, I'm involved in a building project in LA, and we have a private security firm that is going to be monitoring the site. And we will have cameras during construction that will feed to the LAPD. I've heard that sometimes there are certain magic words that are used by these security firms. Dangerous guy lurking in the shadows will get a better response than somebody walk by. So, so I'm curious about what kind of responses is your experience showing you that is this going to be a waste of time, or is this going to really produce, assuming this all works, these cameras work, and you see all this video every night and there's somebody looking at it. Have you thought about, or do you have an opinion as to, will that work in terms of actually providing some sense of protection?
Love your question. So let me start from, if I can just kind of back up a bit and kind of explain the concept. And then I think that'll kind of help you understand, because it's not monitoring, people there sitting and monitoring cameras. So let me kind of back up a little bit. So is it successful? Absolutely. NYPD's doing it, Chicago's doing it, Beverly Hills doing it, Orange County's doing it. I mean, the list, I have tons of cities that are doing it. And actually, I had Office of Inspector General at my station today, and they wanted to see the center, and they looked at me, they're like, you are just now starting to do this? So this is something, it's called a real-time crime center, a real-time watch center. I call it a real-time crime and disaster because we have fires. So it takes everything. And this is a center that can, if I'm down deputies, right? I'm not just law enforcement across the nation can't hire enough police officers. And crime or issues are going up, right? And the amount of enforcement's going down, we have a gap. And we got to fill that gap. And the way to fill that gap is technology. So we have been working, this is the first station in the LA Sheriff's Department. And LAPD doesn't have one either. So we are the first station to actually build this. We spent 2 years traveling around, learning from Vegas Metro, Beverly Hills, Orange County, and just trying to look at best practices and going to these tech conferences and looking at what technology is the best. And so we settled on a technology called Fusus, F-U-S-U-S, Fusus. What Fusus does is it takes public-facing cameras, right? So basically where a deputy's allowed to be, we take that camera, okay? And so we live stream that camera through a box, and it's a Fusus box. It goes live streamed into there and into our station. So it takes all these feeds, and you could put, 5, 6 different cameras on each box, and live streams into our station. And how this and I'll explain once it gets into our station, but kind of how this came up in my discussions with Caruso's group was there were some burglaries going on, and they said, we want to contract with the Sheriff's Department, and we want extra deputies, and we'll pay for that. And I said, well, that's very kind of you, but the answer is no, I don't have any extra deputies to give you. And so I said, but what I can do is, why don't I was like, how many cameras do you have? He told me an amount, and I'm going to make up a number. But I said, basically, I'll give you 50 virtual patrol deputies for free. He's a businessman, of course. He said, that's brilliant. So what this does is, once it goes into our station, now this is all event driven. So it's not like, how many cameras are out in this community, right? Thousands. It's not that there's deputies looking at each camera. That's a waste of time, right? It's not effective. So what it does is it connects to our CAD system, which basically when you call the station and say, hey, I think there's a burglary going on in the Commons. Well, you know what? It'll actually go into the Fusus Center, right? The software, and it'll pull up the first 5 cameras where that call came from, okay? And then we can say, oh, you know what, that's the cleaning crew, or that's the manager. Or we can say, deputies, I need you to start responding there now, right? And it provides actionable information to deputies that are responding to safeguard the community, safeguard the deputies, and make sure that we can apprehend quickly, right? We want to be preventive, right? We don't want to be after the crime has already happened. We want to stop the crime from happening. We want to stop our communities from getting victimized. That's what we want to do. Another thing it does is it'll take burglary calls, right? So let's take the Commons again. It was late at night, right? Burglary calls and alarms, right? Well, you know that an alarm company is a private company. They first call when there's an alarm set off. They first call the manager. Can't get a hold of the manager. Try to call the owner. Can't get a call of the owner. Okay, I guess now we'll call the police. We're in 5 to 7 minutes already before I even get the call at the station. This has got to change. So now we can take those burglary alarm calls that'll still go to the private company, but it'll actually come into Malibu Los Angeles Sheriff Station and pull up the first 5 cameras. And we can look at those and say, oh, the manager forgot to turn off the alarm. Or we can say, hey, deputies, start rolling over to the Commons, they're getting hit, and this is the description, and this is the exact location. So again, I call it precision law enforcement, right? Precision enforcement, where instead of just throwing a bunch of deputies out everywhere, we're very precise in how we do law enforcement. It's better for the community and better for the deputies. So does that kind of help you? I mean, that's just on a big scale. I invite everyone to come to our station and come and see it. I love to show it. And then there's a back end to it as well. So, you know, I like to be on the preventing and stopping things from happening, but there's also on the response side, right? Okay, a crime happened. And what we can do is actually save detectives a lot of time. Instead of looking at hours, you give me your video feed, and I'm looking at hours of video feed. Instead, I can say red Nissan Sentra, or Mel wearing a tan shirt, short hair. And it's going to pull, sorry, you're my suspect today. And I haven't even met you. Sorry, Matthew. Yeah. It's going to pull up all the pictures of you, you know, or someone resembling. And we don't do facial recognition. We cannot do that. That is not legal for law enforcement to do. We do not do it. So FUSIS doesn't even have the capability to do it. But basically, we can, you know, cut the detective time as well and start solving crimes. Another thing that FUSIS does is, and residents have asked me, they're like, Jen, we love this. We want to give you access to our home cameras. No, I'm not taking access to your home cameras. But what you can do is you can register your cameras. It's called Connect Los Angeles. And I do have a paper that I will leave with you. And please register your cameras. But I don't get to see your cameras. It doesn't give me any feeds. But basically, let's just say there's a burglary here. I can geofence this area. And I can send everybody who registered their cameras with FUSIS, I can send them an alert and say, we just had a burglary. And we know that the suspect was driving a red Nissan Sentra, dark hair, wearing a tan shirt. Can you please look? He's going to be really upset with me. But can you please look at your cameras and see if there's any footage? And if they find any, instead of coming, doing a thumb drive and bringing it to the sheriff's station and just inconveniencing the residents, there's a link. They can quickly upload it. And it sends an alert to the detective and it says, hey, we found some information about the crime that you're investigating. It changes the way we do law enforcement, and that's what we want to do. So who's partnered? So we do already have people who have partnered. We started with our businesses. We started with our schools and our religious institutions. That's who we partnered with. And they control, it's their data, it's their cameras, they control it. So school district, I don't have 24/7 access. So we had a call at one of the schools today, and they turned on the cameras, they gave us access, and then we were able to sit there and work the incident while watching the cameras. I met, one of my rabbis came to the station today. He's been giving us 24/7 access. So it just depends on what the community wants. And that's really what this is about, is to partner with the community and make this community safe. That's what we're trying to do. So does that kind of help? if I give you the overview?
Absolutely, thank you very much. That was incredibly comprehensive. The only follow-up is, how long has Fusus been active with your station?
About a year. So it is privately funded. So we are the first station in the nation that has a privately funded real-time crime center that is crime and disasters, because I also pump in the Alert California fire cameras. So we do some arson watch on red flag days from the actual center. So it's kind of cool being cutting edge, and it costs the taxpayers zero. So
That's great, thank you.
as of right now, it costs the taxpayers zero. Yes, sir.
So thank you for the information, but do you monitor presently any shopping center cameras?
So a monitor is, we don't sit there and look at them.
No, but are there any shopping centers here in Calabasas currently sending information to Fusus or whatever
Correct.
you call
Yes,
it?
the Commons. I mean, I always use the Commons as an example just because they're incredible partners. And forgive me, I'm not sure. I know my synagogues in Calabasas have partnered with us.
No, so our proposed ordinance has to do with
just the
shopping centers and signs, digital kiosk signs only.
I know that Commons have, and forgive me, I don't know which other ones have.
Okay, and this sounds very valuable, but I'm not sure. Is there any evidence that this information has prevented any crime?
At my station?
Yeah.
Or in general?
Or just gives you information that something's happening already, or has happened?
So my station just got up and running and just got compatible with our CAD system yesterday. So we don't have our system manned 24/7 or anything like that.
Right.
But like when an incident happens, like today, we sent our detective in there and turned on the cameras. So we're gonna try to get there, but again, mine's privately funded. But yes, we do have the Commons, and has it been, when you look at Beverly Hills saw a 30% drop in crime when they went, and they do use Fusus, but when they went to the real-time crime center, again, they spend $2.4 million on their center. So,
and where does the revenue come from?
I don't ask those questions. I don't know, but I don't know. But they have drones and all this. They have a really incredible crime center that I took all the city managers to. But yes, it does 100%. That's why agencies are going to this. That's why NYPD uses this. It's Chicago. All these agencies.
Will Calabasas have to pay for something? How does this get paid for?
So right now I do it
because it's obviously expensive.
Well, right now I do it through. It's actually, if you kind of know what the community needs, you cut the fluff and you deal with the community needs. So that's kind of what we did. We did it on a shoestring budget, and it was. I mean, I still have funding left over. Met with some people today that want to provide extra funding. So yes, eventually I will need funding. What that looks like, the department is looking to going to an enterprise account. So I would be the first station. And then we are looking to spread this throughout the entire county. I'm going with Sheriff Luna to look at the real-time crime center in Orange County. This concept, remember, we have 3 big events coming our way. We have World Cup, we have the Olympics, and we have the Super Bowl. And it's all in the next, 4 years. And we've got to, 4 years sounds like a long time. It is not, especially when you're dealing with government contracts and trying to get things up and running. LAPD is not gonna hire enough deputies or officers. We're not gonna hire enough deputies. We've gotta think differently. And this is, my jurisdiction is Malibu, Lost Hills. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect this community. But we got to realize that these big events are coming our way. And Calabasas, everybody knows the name Calabasas. And they're going to come. Everybody knows the name Malibu. They're going to come. And we welcome visitors, 100%. We love when visitors come. But we want to make sure that our communities are safe and not being a target.
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Thank you.
The shopping centers that, we know that you have the Commons, and maybe that's the only shopping center you have right now. Is there a cost to them right now as the setup is right now today? Is there a cost to them? Or is this all coming from your private funding?
So the software is called Fusus. The donors pay for Fusus. Then in order to get your cameras live streamed into the station, there has to be a box. It's called a core device. That's what they pay for. So they pay for the core device, which, oh, thank you. There it is. Depending on what kind of cameras you're putting in there, it depends on how much and how many cameras you're attaching to the device, depends on which device you go to.
Okay. So the Commons is a rather large and successful center. Would you say that it's a fair stretch to say that smaller centers, maybe a little less successful centers, might not have the funds to participate in this?
So when you think about the cost for insurance and everything that comes with it, insurance companies really like that they partnered with us on a thing called Fusus. So I get your question, but there's so many things that play into it. So even liquor stores have partnered with us. It may not have been the whole chain, but that specific liquor store wanted to partner with us. And so the core devices, when you're talking for safety, right? When you're talking, I do have my glasses. When you're talking,
I'll see if I can tell you what some of those prices are. It starts at $350 on that upper left, and it goes all the way up to $1,900. You spend more money for more capacity, able to link more cameras, that kind of thing. Just think of it that way.
Okay. But if there was an incentive to the various owners, something tied to the cameras, something linked to the cameras that perhaps provided funds to the various owners that could help pay for this, would you expect that more of them would participate? And did you follow that rather convoluted question?
I don't. So far, the people that we have onboarded, we've even onboarded nonprofits. They've never complained about the cost of this thing. That it's so minute.
Is this the only cost that they have to participate?
That is the only cost. I mean, other than buying their cameras, which most of them already had. Some chose to upgrade, but we can pretty much even take a Ring camera. As long as the camera can stream, it can be connected to that box and live streamed into our station.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming, number one. Yes. And you and I have talked about this before. And the fact that you've been able to convince Sheriff Luna or the establishment of the LA County Sheriff's Department to at least model the system and its possible effects and improvements in the dealing with stopping crime as well as providing public safety. So one of the jobs that our staff has to deal with, and us here, because we're being asked by our council to come up with essentially objective standards to regulate the installation and not necessarily the marketing of the ideas and the compatibility of a civic enterprise like Calabasas and the law enforcement enterprise like the Sheriff's Department. We're at the beginning stages of that. And there's probably a lot of things that can be invented as we're developing these objective standards that the council is asking us to help create with the staffs and your help. So at this point, I don't see any downside in pursuing this, particularly if the cost is negligible at this point, and the marketing of the idea of whether this brand or this setup of cameras is not as important as the concept of dealing with response time improvement and the convincing of the public that this is a worthy enterprise rather than just sending more money to, provide for public security, whether it's to the sheriff or private security firms or, automobile manufacturers that been in security systems and so forth. This is something we can all do. I mean, right now, I think you told us that if a mountain lion wandered through my backyard and across the street and got picked up by the folks' cameras, if we had given permission to stream our evidence of that mountain lion or the bear that's out in, Agoura Hills or Thousand Oaks, that becomes an advantage that anyone can say, well, you mean all I have to do is link my camera to your station and you at least have an opportunity to judge whether that's worthy of sending a black and white or a person.
Yes, so we don't, right now, I am not doing specific residents.
Right.
But
you can, though.
Yes, so Beverly Hills started with their businesses and schools and religious institutions first, and then the residents pushed so hard that they wanted to be part of it. They bought their own boxes, and now that's what Beverly Hills does. We are not there yet. I haven't even asked County Council for permission to even entertain that idea. And I will say this about my sheriff. There was no convincing to Sheriff Luna.
That's good.
Sheriff Luna is such a big supporter. He's been out here, and I mean, he was already thinking that. So definitely not. We're very blessed to have Sheriff Luna, I should say.
One last question, and that is, it looks to me like any of the emergency services providers can be modeled in this manner. So if we have a fire ignition in Malibu Creek State Park, and there is a camera there, we could at least join the club and say we can probably quickly discern that there's a need to send equipment to put the ignition out before it becomes a headline.
I love how you think, Dennis. One thing I missed in telling you is our center is joined with LA County Fire.
Right.
So it's Drew Smith as well as the LASD. Another thing, when you're talking about fires and maybe lost hikers or stuff that's our drone program just got approved. We're just waiting for a couple changes in policy. So drones can actually, the feeds, now we don't use drones for crime. We do not use drones for crime, but if a vehicle's off the side of the cliff, rather than waiting a couple hours to find out who's in that car and what their medical needs are, why don't we just fly a drone down and talk to them and let them know you are going to be okay, help is on the way, right? And so that can actually be live streamed into the station, and we can start assessing the medical needs, and fire department can start responding with those appropriate needs. So, I mean, this changes the way we do law enforcement out here, especially with the rugged terrain that we have, the fires, the lost hikers. It just changes everything. And I'll tell you, I've gone through the community. I've done HOA meetings. I've done town halls. Probably the biggest one was the Calabasas town hall, and talking about this. And I was scared to say the D word, drones, or a crime center. You know what? This community loves this. I have gotten zero pushback from the community, and so much so I've never asked the community for any money from this, but literally had people dropping off checks saying they want to give to the foundation to help build this. That's how dedicated this community is to this, and so, which is exciting because this is owned by the community.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And before we move down the line, I do have one more question. Your capacity, I assume there is a finite capacity of some sort. If you suddenly had 10, 15, 20 shopping centers wanting to drop into this system, could you handle it?
Yeah, so we brought out FUSIS. So before we did anything, FUSIS came and looked at our jurisdiction. What's here? What does this jurisdiction look like? They already mapped all that out, and then they gave us a price. They're like, if people were to onboard your businesses and everything, this is what you're going to need. And so we are ready to handle this. We're ready.
Terrific. Thank you. Commissioner Leah.
Thank you for coming, Captain. A hypothetical question. Assume the system is up and running and well publicized. Does it make the areas that are not part of it easier prey?
I don't know, because it's hard to measure stuff that hasn't happened, right? So that I don't know, but I will say this. So my good friend is the chief of Beverly Hills. And it became well known, don't come to Beverly Hills and do your crime, because you're going to do your time because of the center. And there was a rapper that actually put that into one of his songs. Don't go to Beverly Hills. And that's really, we sit there and we kind of laugh at it, but like, that's really the message that we want to send. Do not come to Calabasas and do your crime. If you want to come to Calabasas and visit and enjoy our beauty and our shopping centers, come. We love for you guys to come. But we're going to provide a safe shopping experience for every visitor and resident here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So as your hypothetical criminal, I will speak.
We're going to be good friends, Matthew.
Nice to meet you, Captain. Thank you for coming. I will speak to the obvious importance of deterrence and prevention. And, Beverly Hills is sort of, the guiding light. They have a huge budget, of course, and hopefully we can pay our deputies as much as they pay their officers one day. I did see a profile on Beverly Hills PD, and I did see that they are implementing those tall towers with the cameras and a flashing blue light on top, along with drones, of course. And I just wanted to gauge your opinion on what we have to deal with here, which is specifically digital kiosks having these cameras on them, and whether or not we need some obvious, apparent deterrence, such as that blue light flashing, so that would-be criminals know that, hey, there is a camera mounted on top of this. And this is regardless of what we have to talk about, which is, the price and how that's related to this project. But, I mean, if you had an unlimited budget, or at least the budget that Beverly Hills had, are those towers something you'd like to see in the Commons, for example, in the parking lot? And also, just to tag along with that, specifically with kiosks, do you want to see something obvious that, you're on camera?
So some of the things that, gosh, that's such a hard one, because Vegas Metro does such a great job with their cameras, and they kind of do what Beverly Hills, LAPD has gone to that as well. If you go down to LAPD, like on Flower Street, you're going to see those. We're different than Beverly Hills. We're very different. And that is not something where I would come to you and say, we got to have this, we need this. I don't think that's right. I think we're still kind of and I guess because I am a local, I live a couple cities over. I live in the Malibu Lost Hills jurisdiction. And I'm thinking, as a resident, I don't think I want to see that. But something that we can do is a little bit more subtle, a little bit more Calabasas with some style, right? Where this is virtual patrol deputies are on video, you are being monitored. Just something that's some of the agencies are using about virtual patrol officers. The cameras are being live streamed in the sheriff's station. Something that we can work. I mean, clearly I'm not a marketer, but something that we can work with the businesses and come up with something that's Calabasas style. I haven't really given that a lot of thought, but right now, one, I'm not going to put up any cameras. LA County Sheriff's Department is not putting up cameras. It's, maybe we'll get there one day, but right now we're gonna crawl, and the low-hanging fruit is the cameras that are already there, the infrastructure that's already there, and just what I call relationship-based policing, right? It's about building relationships with our community and that trust and working together for one mission. So I know I didn't really answer your question. It's just I don't think we're there yet.
Flashing blue light, for or against?
Flashing blue light on a pole right now.
Or even the kiosk, because I know that is what we have to deal with right now. I mean, does that
Separate.
deter?
Commissioner, separate the two. Because we're dealing with one, we're not dealing with the other, so.
So the question would be flashing blue lights on a kiosk. Is that the question?
In general, is a flashing blue light that denotes a camera, a police camera, effective to deter, would you say? And I know it's a tough one. I mean, statistically, who knows, but.
You know what? I have not studied that part. I don't know. I would say Vegas metro area, yeah, I have seen that as a deterrent. I noticed there's a flashing blue and red light at one of the car dealerships here in Calabasas. Yes, everything is, so my question then would be like, so they do their crime somewhere else, but still in the commons? Because they know the camera's there? Like, I'm just trying to I don't have enough information to be able to answer that question. I do think red and blue flashing lights, 100% deterrent when people know that they are being watched, but do they know where the cameras are and saying, okay, I can do this off camera? Or do they break it because they know there's a camera there? So there's so many what ifs that I wish I could answer your question, but I really don't know yet.
One more question, if I may. Are the feeds Wi-Fi or hardwired?
It's cloud-based.
Cloud-based?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have any other questions? No?
No.
Captain Citos, thank you. Wait,
Well, I
think we do?
I want to make a comment because what's in front of us tonight, we started, I think, to perceive that this is an advertising kiosk type of approach as opposed to a public safety concept.
Yeah.
And what's before us tonight is well thought out and well documented and is allowable under our codes and so forth. But what you're talking about and what I think we need has to do with a lot more Imagineering, and then understanding that this also depends a lot on not just the funding of the equipment and the maintenance of the system, because we all have experience with the cell phone companies and the streaming companies and all the other folks. We're trying to do this homegrown, and I can't tell you how much we thank you for thinking outside of the constraints that otherwise come to you because there's a budget constraint. So we need to look at every aspect of this change in the way we're dealing with public safety, essentially, and making people feel comfortable in their city hall or their house or their shopping or their restaurant or their cars, in a particular geographic area. And you used a term at the outset of your comments about geospatial management. And that kind of sounds artificial intelligence-like, or digital twinning, if you haven't heard that term before. It's literally digitizing what the physical environment does. And there's going to be a lot of that in the next 12 months, 2 years, and it's going to change the way we all work. And one quick example. My kids are visiting from Orinda. They're putting a kid in college down here. And they installed cameras before they came down here, and they turned on their cell phone and they said, look, there's a deer that just walked through my front yard. Live streamed to my house on their phone, and we're watching the zoo that they live in up in Orinda. So I mean, that kind of experience is going to change the way all of us think.
It is.
So keep it up.
Yeah, thank you. One thing that I missed, which I think is very, very important, is yes, I get artificial intelligence. I'm actually going to go to a summit in Vegas in February. It'll be the first law enforcement summit for artificial intelligence. So they're sending me to that. So I'm excited to kind of learn about this. But there is stuff that you can put on your camera. So again, not law enforcement, but like businesses where they can put motion detecting.
Yep.
And so, you know, you think about, let's just think about our strip malls, right, that have been hit. You can actually geofence that and say from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., nobody should be there. And the second the motion is, immediately the first 5 cameras are brought up to our station. And so, again, it's not about monitoring, spying. It's just about doing precision law enforcement and doing it better.
Well, thank you very much for taking your evening and spending it with us and providing us with some very, very good information and education and giving us a lot to think about.
Come and visit the center. We'd love to host you. Please.
I'm coming.
Okay, great. 24/7.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
All right. So, back to whether there is any kind of presentation, or are we?
I see no value in doing the presentation I had because I think what Captain C2 had to say is covered the most salient points about where this really is coming from.
Yep.
So I'll just summarize on a couple things and maybe provide a few images anyway about what these can look like. I did go ahead and take the opportunity while she was speaking to put up a couple slides that had to do with the units, the FUSIS units that we're talking about. And this is, you know, the hardware that nobody would see. It'd be inside the kiosk, that kind of thing. And you'd have cameras that you wouldn't see. What we've been talking about is the more clandestine approach, not with the blue lights. And it would look no different than the kiosks you see today or whatever form somebody would do. And cameras would be hidden because if you don't do that, one of the things we're learning is they'll just spray paint the camera and you can't use it. So they're not something you would know where exactly they are. Just wanted to at least remind you that I did show you that. It shows you can, you know, the amount of money you spend has to do with just how robust the system is going to be that you're going to employ. It's somebody who does it their own system. In this case, it'd be the shopping center, you know, property owner, landlord, in collaboration with whatever third party they may be using to provide the kiosk and conjunction with whoever's doing the security setup. And they'd spec everything out, get it done, work with the sheriff's department to get the feeds done. All they would need from the city is the permit for the kiosk because it would be under our sign ordinance, a kiosk. So what we're talking about now and what's discussed in your written report is an approach that is more refined than what we discussed with you last time. And what it basically does is now more clearly defining a digital kiosk is just basically a subset of kiosk. If anybody would want to do a new kiosk, it doesn't matter whether it's digital or not, we're going to require it to have security cameras that would be put into this system. Now, if they want to upgrade a kiosk, right, if somebody already has a kiosk, which of course the Commons has, if they want to upgrade it to digital, they have to put in cameras. So any upgrade or new, digital or not, for the new ones, we want it to be part of the system. Now, the benefit of doing that is you get a way for the property owners to do it that doesn't cost them anything because the advertisers will pay the cost. And you get the cameras out in a place that aren't the blue light. They're just there where they're able to observe from a location that's not right up against the building. They're able to look at the building from outside, looking in. a lot of these places have cameras inside their stores and they have them right at their entrances, but they don't have them outside looking back. And they don't have them at a level that gives you, let me find this image, these kinds of points of view. But a kiosk gives you these kind of angles out there where cars are coming and going, people are getting in and out of the cars, getting in and out of the buildings, that sort of thing. So it's a particularly good vantage point, and you can put them, obviously, as we pointed out at the last meeting, in a network kind of setup where they're spaced and distributed in a way that can really help law enforcement. So that's the intent here. We have some standards that I was going to walk the commissioners through in terms of trying to get some feedback, whether you'd want more or less of something, whether it's distance separation, shorter, taller, those sorts of things. We can still invite your feedback. I'll just point out we've been meeting for 3 hours, so I'll leave it up to Madam Chair and fellow commissioners to decide if you want to keep going down this for additional discussion at that level. But I think we now have a much better feel for what this is about. We are going to suggest that it be opened up to all centers with not just the largest ones. It just makes sense for this kind of opportunity to have everybody participate. Doesn't matter how small your shopping center is. And so what's outlined in the written staff report is structured that way. So that's a refinement from what we explained to you last time. All of this, of course, very draft at this stage. It's not an ordinance up for consideration. This is not a public hearing. And we provided comments and responses to comments and all of that. So I'm available to answer questions at this stage rather than go through this formal presentation.
All right. First question is, how much bandwidth does everybody have to deal with this?
Just to make comments, I'm okay.
We're good?
May I ask a sort of a procedural question?
Sure.
We all, probably all of us, provided comments by August 1, and this staff has responded to them. I don't think this is a forum for us to try to get consensus on any kind of minutia. If that is the reason we're here, then everyone sit back till midnight. I think that, I mean, I'm not recommending it, but we could literally take this grid that staff has prepared has all my comments, and I thought the responses to my comments were valid and good, and accepted some and explained why some were dopey, and I could hand that to the city council. We could hand this thing and say, this is our work product, this is what we're thinking. Now, obviously, there may be some specific questions that were not dealt with by staff that you're unsatisfied with. So we can do those.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we do have to come back with a public hearing on this before we send our recommendation to council. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So this is just a discussion item tonight. In order to take formal action, the commission would have to adopt a resolution with a recommendation to approve or deny an ordinance at a public hearing. So
I have a suggestion. My suggestion is if any of the commissioners are left with questions or concerns that are significant after reading through staff's responses, which is not bad. Let's deal with it right now. Otherwise, I suggest that we send staff back to come up with a draft based upon the questions and answers and what you're left. Do you feel comfortable that you can do that based upon what you have now?
Yeah,
And a couple couple comments that I believe will come from the commission right now.
Our desire is to come back to the commission at a public hearing with a finalized draft that the commission can act on, and then move that on to the city council for their consideration. To help direct that, you know, what we are hoping to get some general sense from the commission is, are there specific standards that you just don't agree with, that
Love or hate?
love or hate? Tom, I believe in the staff report, pointed out a couple things, like right now, the draft ordinance says, has a height limit of 12 feet, and we heard last time that there's maybe concern about height or dimension. So if there's any direction on that, we would appreciate it, and we can make those changes now so that a finalized draft returns with those changes incorporated, and changes can still be made to that finalized draft as it's discussed at the public hearing.
Okay.
Let me hop in first, if I may.
Sure.
Because I'm still questioning the nexus, the logical nexus between digitizing kiosks and, after seeing these prices, whether that's necessary to get what we want. So in general, I gotta say, I'm still against digitizing the kiosks. It's gonna save us a lot of time. That's not the reason I'm against it, but that is a bonus. Let's pop these cameras on the analog kiosks and call it a day, if you ask me. But I'm still swayable.
So one of the suggestions actually that was recommended by Tom moving forward, and it's something that we can incorporate into a draft, is that we actually wrap in, basically what we would look at is just updating the concept of kiosks. And any new kiosk, whether it's digital or non-digital, would have to incorporate what we're talking about, which would be security cameras. And think of it more broadly, we heard from Captain C2, it's just a piece of the puzzle to help improve safety. It doesn't stop the shopping centers from having traditional cameras up on the corners of their buildings. This is just another way to get more cameras at different angles throughout the shopping center, which, speaking to Captain C2 before the meeting, they want as many cameras as they can. The more cameras that they have feeding into Fusus, the better they're able to see what's going on throughout the community and respond more effectively and efficiently. So again, you can have the cameras up in the corners, and but this would also give property owners that opportunity to do them at a different angle. One thing I do want to point out, because it was mentioned, right, difference between Calabasas and Beverly Hills, just going through it really quickly, the operating budget for the city of Calabasas, our revenue for our operating budget is $27 million. The operating revenue for the city of Beverly Hills is $332 million. Vastly different. They have way more resources, much different set of resources than this community has. And so, again, this is an opportunity for the private property owners to provide additional security, feeding that into our public law enforcement, and get more eyes on the ground at no additional cost to the city of Calabasas.
So I'm sorry to double up here then. I mean, in theory, can the city request 100% of the revenue that these digital kiosks generate that goes directly to the mobile monitoring? No, I mean,
Well, you can't. We can ask for it, but the whole point, to me, the whole point is the incentive to the property owners, to the owners of the centers, to add more cameras because they can have the digital advertising. You know, we can put constraints on it, we can put limits on it so it doesn't become Vegas. But that's where the incentive is, to bring in more cameras. And frankly, right now, the cost is the cost of the permit and the cost of the box and whatever small, things have a tendency to change.
It also does add up. So the costs that were put up on the website or on the PowerPoint, for a shopping center, they're going to have to go with the larger capacity. So that's minimum $1,900 per box. Captain C2 didn't know specifically how many cameras can feed into that box. It could take multiple boxes to accommodate a larger shopping center. And there's also an annual fee to that. So there are costs that are borne by the property owner. And so, yes, the advertising component helps offset that. Now, with respect to your specific question about can the city get 100% of the revenue, cannot do that.
Right.
But we did find in some other communities there is a cost sharing component, not super high, maybe 10, 15%. That is something, again, it's not really, I don't want the commission to get into those weeds, but that's something that the commission could make a recommendation for the council to consider, and it could be somehow built into an ordinance potentially.
It could be a condition or it could be done by contract.
Yep.
So again, I'm going to use the term for the second meeting in a row, Trojan horse. I think that, the amount of revenue that the shopping centers stand to generate off digital kiosks is going to be quite high relative to the cost that it's going to take for these boxes. And she did mention that insurance costs can go down, and of course deterrence, against crime, which every shopping center wants their tenants to feel comfortable knowing that, crime, retail theft is low in their shopping center. So I just don't see the nexus between the digitization of kiosks and us getting behind, what Captain C2 recommends, and which is, these boxes and more cameras. Unless, of course, we can go by contract and send a lot of revenue to the sheriff's department to deter retail theft, which is, I guess, the point. And we can slowly but surely get up to the revenue that Beverly Hills operates with.
Well,
I agree with Matt. I mean, he couldn't have said it better. I think there's a complete disconnect between the sign, having more signs and having security. Just a complete disconnect. There's no connection. First of all, I think this entire subject should have gone to the Public Safety Commission and not to us. Signs have nothing to do with this, and having digital signs, that's a big issue. That's going to make Calabasas look bad. And all we're doing is generating a huge amount of revenue to shopping center owners. Clearly, it's Caruso who's behind this. The cost of the cameras and fuses is minimal. I mean, if you can use Ring cameras, and the shopping center owners don't need help with that. They could, I just think this is just exactly, it's a Trojan horse. If we have an issue with security, which everybody does, then let's promote that. Let's get more Ring cameras. Let's get pole cameras or something. Help people do that, not putting in signs that nobody wants except for the shopping center owners to generate revenue, where they can put signs up for products and services that are not even in the shopping center, or they can put up provocative signs, flashing signs. All of this is just, no, let me finish. This has nothing to do with security. This is revenue to the shopping center owners. And I think we should focus on security. There's not a piece of evidence. Captain Cito didn't mention one way that any of these digital kiosk signs could prevent even one crime. They can't prevent anything. So it's just bogus to me to have more signs to instead of more cameras.
She wasn't really dealing with the digital signs so much. And
exactly. In general, she was talking about
talking about the security,
about cameras.
Of course.
Which I think is good.
My concern,
but that's
what
different.
What I'm hearing is a real concern about the benefit that the shopping center owners are going to get. Okay.
They can put up their own cameras.
Well, hold on.
For nothing. This is like bupkis to them.
Michael,
this
you
is
had,
nothing.
wait.
No, you interrupted me. You didn't let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, I have more. So on this proposed ordinance, which I could never support, you mentioned commercial shopping centers and shopping centers. Unfortunately, I actually looked it up. So there are two definitions. They're both defined. So you got to stick with one. And I think shopping center is better. Commercial means it has to have 5 stores. And now you're saying it could be anywhere in any shopping environment. So I would stick with one.
there are already 1,285 registered cameras and 417 integrated cameras. I would just encourage more, find ways to encourage more. You don't need to give shopping center owners a lot of money for something that's unrelated to additional security, to me.
Can I just interrupt for
Yeah,
one
sure,
quick
go ahead.
sec? Because I think you're making some good points. There are certain things you're saying, like the definition.
Yeah,
That's a good catch.
yeah,
We could come to consensus on that easily.
right.
Then you have the more, fundamental questions.
As he said, the nexus.
The nexus kinds of
Right.
questions, which are, definitely ought to be brought to the attention of council.
Right.
But as to the kind of the practical comments that you and other people are making, we probably could give some direction.
Right,
I mean,
the other
unless
one.
our direction is gonna be.
Right, the other one was measurements.
Yeah, that kind of-
So they didn't answer that question of mine. They just didn't answer it at all. There's no way to
Talking about height and,
on a concave,
Yeah, how it works.
kiosk. So unless you look, I don't know, maybe you just take the width and the height of the overall structure rather than trying to measure the surface, because you did have a definition of how many square inches this kiosk digital sign could be, and that just doesn't make, you're not going to be able to determine the surface area. No one can. So, because it's curved. So unless you're looking at the flat sign inside, but then you better define that. So I don't think you can have a surface area description.
You absolutely can have a surface area.
On a curved surface? Good
Of
luck.
course.
Any
Good luck.
surface.
Of
No one
course,
will
I mean,
know.
in construction, there are
These
all
are not
types of
round.
things
These
that
are
would
like
not-
rounded and then the edges sort of curve in. I mean, it's not
Okay.
going to be easy to measure.
All right,
Madam Chair?
yes.
I hear you, Michael. At this point, do you want to go to, because this was asked for by the council. So do you want to go to the council saying no? Do you want to go saying, we like these things?
Yeah, no, I would say no. I'm in favor of increased cameras and fusus, and those are minimal costs, and let's see how to encourage those without giving, $100,000 extra to Caruso every year for advertising.
I understand.
Or,
I understand what I'm saying.
That's what I would do. I say you have got the wrong commission, and look, and go back and try to, yeah.
Without it being about shopping center owners, just want to reiterate, if the council wants it, and this is your ability to give your input, consider that.
Yes, I think this is a big mistake. If trying to claim that there's additional security for digital kiosk signs, I don't think there is any, as Matt said, nexus at all.
So it's a bit
Okay,
insulting, frankly. That's all I'll say.
Yes,
Okay,
I
well,
think
and
this is.
Okay, now my
Yeah.
turn.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I do want
I-
to just clarify, just
Yeah.
to be clear, digital kiosks are just a sign. That is what the commission is looking at. Does the commission want to recommend or not recommend that the council consider adopting an ordinance that would allow for digital kiosks? The security component is just secondary, and it would be required because that is something that is of concern. But we did bring in Captain C2 to answer questions because there were specific questions that came out of the last meeting about, is this going to cost the city any more money if X amount of shopping centers start feeding into the system? How does it connect to the sheriff's station? We didn't have those answers last time. So that's why we brought in Captain C2 to be able to at least answer the technical questions that were raised at the last meeting about the security feed. But then the second component is really fundamentally digital signs. And digital signs are moving in the way of the future. There are other communities that are embracing digital signs, and you are seeing them in neighboring communities. We provided a couple of ordinances that are allowing for it. So that's part of it, but again, the council's direction was, we want to consider digital signage, but if we are going to allow that digital sign, then we do want that security component to be tied to it, and so that's what was moved forward.
Can I make a comment?
After I make mine, since
Okay,
I...
please do.
Thank you. There's something called looking sideways. People looking out of the corner of their eye, always worried about, well, what's the other guy going to get? Okay. rather than focusing on the goal for the city. And I feel like I'm hearing a lot of that. I feel like I'm hearing some resentment and a lot of looking sideways at the owners of the shopping centers and what they're going to get out of this, and this is just for their benefit. And my question is, will the possibility of getting digital signs incentivize these owners to put, well, they would have to, it would be a requirement. Will it bring significantly more cameras into these centers and have a positive effect on security and crime prevention, solving, and all of that? That's where the focus should be. You know, and an extra added possible benefit is if the city can revenue share with these digital signs. Now, again, I don't support having Las Vegas flashing lights everywhere and all that, but I don't get the feeling that that's what we're talking about with the restrictions that we're talking about, where these digital signs have to be placed and where they would be facing. Size is an issue because the initial size was pretty large. But I think that that's where the focus needs to be. How can the city benefit? How can the citizens benefit? Not, well, will the shopping center owners also benefit? Who cares? That's not where the focus should be. And that's my concern with the direction that this discussion has been going in.
Everybody's right, nobody's wrong. Now what? That's what it comes down to, and on whose dime and whose time. And we started this project because the council, a person or several persons on the council, thought, can we in fact enlist the support of the folks who need or have in fact advertising opportunities available to them to put it into kind of the public discourse. And I think that you've done a great job in dealing with the assignment that you believed that you got from the council to us, whether it's the right commissioner or not, Michael. You know, this could actually be an issue for every commission in the city, and it's a general community discussion about how do we deal with not crime, but the improvement of public safety. And the improvement of public safety will be helped by everything you've written so far, in my opinion. Nothing wrong with this stuff, but is it the right thing to collaborate with what Jen Situ, I think, has actually done on her own? She's got the Sheriff's Department of LA to actually let her run with this basic idea of precision crime fighting to fill in that gap between the big crime budgetary things. I mean, we're spending $5.3 million on our sheriff contract. And it doesn't help me on Calabasas. You know, it kind of does, but, you know, we're being told, get your cameras, get your lights, and make your neighborhood watch work. And we had our neighborhood watch, you know, captain here tonight to literally deal with that. It could be that we renew the idea of neighborhood watchmen and deal with it not just on an advertising platform in a commercial or a shopping center, per your definition, Michael. Instead, we say, what are the hard realities of dealing with public safety and the feeling of public safety? And it's not just about Beverly Hills having their 2.4 million and we have virtually no cost at this point other than the time that we're putting in. And the staff is putting in a lot of time on this, and it's maybe not broad enough. at the same time, we're trying to narrow it down so we can write basically an ordinance.
Draft ordinance.
And the ordinance to govern video or digitized kiosks in the few places where those exist now, or might exist in the near future, much to many of our chagrins, because we've been trying to get rid of signs in Calabasas for the past 40 years. And that's because, you know, we haven't focused on the real issue there. It's communication, because that's what signage is about. And it's about ultimately communicating with those people who are tasked with either helping us conceive of what to do, or how do we get protected by our so-called law enforcement folks. And do we have the highway patrol coming in here? No. Is the city of LA, which is, you know, part of Old Town Calabasas, are they coming in and saying, hey, we can help you? We actually have at the Leonis Adobe Association a system that's like this, and have had for years, installed by one of our city suppliers. And there's a lot of folks that have that already in place, including every bank that's in every savings and loan, or every credit union. They're all synced in, and I'll bet that very few of them know how to actually hit the button and get to the Lost Hills Sheriff folks so they can dispatch a person or a black and white. And that's kind of what we're doing, I believe. And we've chosen essentially the Civic Center and this unique Civic Center area, which includes the Commons, and across the street, the Commons courtyard. All those things could be kiosked and digitized. And then you ask the question, are we actually, on the internet? There's no fiber optic cabling to this building. I mean, that's one of the things that probably would have come up at the Communications Commission. Is that,
I have an idea.
Is it a hardwired or is it a Bluetooth connected device? I think we're on the right track, actually. It's just that we're exaggerating everything on the kiosk and advertising side.
Okay, well, except that we're tasked with, what we're tasked with
But we can
is
also
coming up
communicate with
some-
our council and say, you ask a good question, but it's not exactly the right question at this point, because it's a broader question than you're asking.
Well, I have a thought on that, but Commissioner Mueller comes up with some really good ideas sometimes, and he has an idea, so
Good.
let's see what he
But
says
I don't want
before we go
to, I don't want
further.
to jump over Bob if you want, because you haven't made a comment. Did you want to?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, let you go first.
Tom said when he opened this hearing that they're thinking of expanding it. I think that's a great idea. It's something I had pushed for. And it just emphasized, it was supposed to be limited just to major shopping centers. I believe Tom said they were thinking of expanding it. What this city is really looking for is security. So I agree with Matt. The kiosks are a Trojan horse. I can't believe that if we expand it throughout the city, you're going to require digital kiosks every place it goes. You want cameras. And I think we have been pushed down the wrong path with the kiosk deal.
But that's what council has asked of
Here's
us.
my thought. My thought is that we have a statement, go back to the staff with the statement saying there are several commissioners who are opposed to this in toto, and for these reasons, and I'll just use your term, the Trojan horse reasons. No problem, clear statement. I don't even care if we say if it's a majority, That said, staff and council, if it is the will of the council to proceed with digital kiosks, here are certain things that we think are good standards to apply to that process. And I think there are only, I've only got a few. And also, I'd certainly give them the list of the responses to the overall questions, but what are we talking about? The size, again, assuming digital goes forward. We're talking about the size of the digital kiosks. Some guy at Caltech can figure out the screen size, I'm sure of that. I noticed other cities have already said 15 square feet or whatever, so I think that hurdle can be crossed, I would say that, frankly, I would just say the size of the digital kiosk shall be the same as non-digital kiosks, but some math's going to be involved. I get that.
Or just make height and width rather than trying to do surface.
Make a height, and as to the height and width, I'd say a standard would be, the digitals will be the same as the non-digitals. So we have some consistency. They don't get to have bigger ones. We don't make them have the smaller digitals. The center question that Bob just brought up is I think already been answered. Unlike the last hearing, these are going to be applicable to all shopping centers, properly defined. I agree with Michael. There's the issue of changing images. I noticed one of these other cities says no more than every 8 seconds. I personally would argue for a longer, a less frequent change than 8 seconds. I'd say 20 seconds, just my idea. 'Cause otherwise, we're going to Vegas. That's a standard, though. We can talk about it, we can agree on it, we can disagree on it. I vote for 20 seconds, but someone else may have another idea. And as to cameras, I think the ordinance should say that the cameras shall go into all new kiosks, digital or non-digital. And I don't know if you put this in the ordinance, I don't know how you communicate it, but I think we should encourage those people who have existing kiosks to take advantage of this security opportunity.
I appreciate that. I do want to speak to Madam Chair's apt observation that, we could be looking at this sideways, but the Trojan horse issue is only secondary to the primary issue, which is I don't want screens at the Commons. I spend all day looking at screens. How many screens are in my line of sight right now? The Commons are a respite for me. Yeah. I like to meet clients there. I like to relax there. I don't need screens everywhere I go. And again, the Trojan horse thing, sure, yes, I feel that way, but I brought that up because I personally, and from what I heard in the meeting where we discussed this before, we were sort of against this in general. I mean, Little Tokyo came out of Commissioner Dennis's mouth, and I agree with that. So primarily, I don't need screens everywhere I go. I like Calabasas without screens. Keep Calabasas screenless.
So, if I may, Madam?
Thank you. Yes.
I think John gave us a method forward.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. The question is,
I think there's still a majority of us, though, who are opposed to digital kiosks.
That's the
but that was the first part of it.
If they're
But
going to do
if
something.
you're going to do
Because
it,
the council's going to,
some
look,
standards.
the council's going to do what the
Got it.
council's
Yeah, I
going to
get it.
do.
Yeah, I get it.
So that way you get to keep
let's
your
put the
recommendation.
restrictions, if you will, the parameters.
Parameters, yes.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Because this is a discussion item, there's no formal action that the commission has to make tonight. So we can take all of this input, schedule a public hearing, provide a finalized draft ordinance to incorporating the suggestions that were made by Commissioner Mueller, because it doesn't seem there's a consensus one way or another. But then whatever is in front of the commission at the next meeting, at the public hearing, can still be modified. So nothing is set in stone. But we could just prepare the finalized draft ordinance, put out the public hearing notice, and then the commission can take a formal action on that document.
But I do want to make sure of one thing. I think it would have to be presented as a draft ordinance that is preceded by the statement that Commissioner Mueller started with. Because after all, that's where a number of the commissioners are. So I think that there might be some negative. It would be a negative environment if it comes back just as the draft ordinance for the public hearing. It has to come back as the draft ordinance preceded by the statement about several several of the commissioners are against digital signs in any form.
Let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
I think that should be a bold statement, and Matt has articulated it better than anyone up here. The objections can be a bold statement put in the staff report. I mean, the draft ordinance is going to be a draft ordinance.
Yeah.
You know, it's not whereas a lot of people don't like it. You know, it's going to be a real ordinance, but the staff report absolutely ought to say, these are the concerns.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because right now what I'm looking at is staff advocating. This is definitely advocacy by the staff, and I take objection with that. So I think what they said is
let's
right.
not get into that. I mean, staff was sent to come to us with our feedback on doing this.
Right, but the answers.
Not whether we should do it or not. So,
right. The
so
answers were not
let's-
sufficient.
This is not an advocacy
Right,
situation.
right.
Do you feel comfortable that you have enough direction?
I guess I just
From
want,
this?
I want clarity on for the staff report that comes back to the planning commission, do you want that to repeat the concerns that were raised? Because the commission already knows what those concerns are. I mean, what we're talking about is just bringing
No,
back the
not,
draft
not all,
ordinance.
not all, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, because I don't want to step on toes. This was your idea here. Not all of the concerns, the overarching concern, and the opposition to having digital signs at all. It's got to be in there. It's got to precede the draft ordinance. If it's not part of the, if that overarching opposition by a number of the commissioners is not contained in the report, we're going to go nowhere.
Now, the report to the council will summarize what this commission has contributed and offered in the form of input, absolutely. Bottom line, there are two things here. Bottom line is there will be a draft ordinance that will come to this commission, for which this commission is going to be asked to basically render thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
So that's one. Number two, whatever comes out from that, whether you say thumbs up or thumbs down, there will be a report that goes to the city council that conveys that. That report, I understand, even if this commission, presumably by a split vote maybe, Brad, I'm hypothesizing here, but if it was a split vote in favor of a draft ordinance to take it to council, we would still communicate both sides of the issue as we're being asked to do. That's not a problem. Is that?
I think they
I
would like.
I don't, you know what, John?
I don't
John,
think you're
I think John
absorbing what
needs
they're
to-
saying.
Yeah,
No.
John,
all
why
I'm
don't
saying
you,
is
because I
Look,
don't
this is
wanna-
going to be a public hearing, and I think the public has to know that we're not advocating this,
Isn't the next step a public hearing? A draft ordinance, okay.
Yes.
And doesn't a public hearing on a draft ordinance normally have a staff report with it?
It will have a staff report, but
Yeah.
I think this gets to Michael's point, which is why would our staff report back to this
Because-
commission
and the answer-
say,
and the
you
answer-
had this debate and that debate? You've
Because
all heard the debate.
Because, two reasons. One is the staff report is a public document, and the public will be able to see what the concerns were, number one. And if we don't do it in the staff report, we're going to have this hearing again for 2 hours, so everybody can make the good points they just made. If we can do it articulately in the staff report, I think that will save time, and it can be done efficiently and articulately.
and inform the community.
And
what
inform the
issues
community,
are.
exactly.
Right.
I want to key in on what Tom just said, because we have a statement and we have the staff report, but he said we're going to have to vote. You're going to have to make a decision. We disapprove this, we do not approve, we approve, and if the draft ordinance can still be there.
Or we continue the hearing.
Well, but we can't keep going.
No, look,
We need
we're
to
having a
make
public
decision.
hearing, and
We
so
can
this is to
continue the
inform the
hearing.
public what the issues are. That's what they're talking about. Otherwise, we are going to just repeat this.
Exactly.
We're just wasting time.
Right.
So put that in there if you could.
Yes, so,
And don't advocate so much the way it's presented now.
well, okay.
be more neutral.
Can I ask everybody to take a look at page 4 of 8 in the staff report, item 21. And it's pretty succinct as to the point we're at.
I'm sorry, are you on a certain page of the staff report? Could you please?
I think that's what I am. I'm in the
It's in the questions and answers.
the Q&A.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Exhibit A.
Number 21, thank you.
4 of 8 and item 21. Does the council specifically want to have digital kiosks, or is the underlying goal to get the security cameras placed, and I'm adding the words, and accessible to LA County Sheriff? If the latter, is there an alternative to digital kiosks in order to achieve this without it costing the city?
Yeah, I think that was my question, and I think, yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
Now we get back to something I mentioned before. It's not a matter of, is there an alternative that won't cost the city? It's a matter of, how do you get property owners? You can't force property owners to put a load of security cameras. The whole idea of the kiosks is to incentivize them to put all of these cameras. So the question would be, is there an alternative that would incentivize the owners? This is their property. This is their property.
I'll bet the
to
store
put
owners
or not
Really,
to
though,
put
that needs to have the protective services. And that's
at
where we're-
the shopping centers.
that's-
At the shopping center. The whole idea is to place this at the shopping centers where so much of the crime is happening.
But you see, the store owners themselves could put these things up, and if the shopping center owners won't let them, then we could consider revising an ordinance to force them to allow Ring cameras, for example. So to me, it's bogus, because they're going to get a huge amount of revenue.
In existing shopping centers?
Yeah, if in a store, look at a store like Ulta that gets knocked off every month, it seems. Why is that owner, which is a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, why don't they have a guard there? Because they know it's going to get ripped off all the time. I mean, that's outrageous to me.
But it's private property.
But that's
and
why
they
that's-
get, and they
Right.
and you know,
Then maybe we can do something about allowing the store owner to put in some Ring cameras.
Well, we heard tonight from
Maybe the attorney
Captain
can look into that.
C2, and I heard staff say, we actually learned some new things about what they're capable of doing. And I'm guessing that as you look to rewrite the report and also draft an ordinance, you're going to probably have to expand your point of view in any case, because it's not just about the kiosks and the commons.
Right.
It's about the public security and safety.
Right.
And how do we achieve that, given that she has been immensely successful in getting the sheriff of LA County to say, go for it. Let's make Calabasas a better place to be and feel safe and operate, whether
Right.
I'm on my street, or I'm in the commons, or I'm at the gas station,
Or in a park.
It all matters.
Or a school.
But it's a major technological change that we're also entering, all of us. And that hasn't been a large part of the discussion, other than from Captain C2 tonight. So if we are looking to give the council our best advice, and that is, hey, she's onto something. And the sheriff department is actually working in Calabasas to make it work. Why can't we, in fact, continue to investigate what the optimal outcomes are that we have to ultimately codify? And, in terms of form factor and flashing timetables and all that other stuff, that's going to come out of the details ultimately. But the prime principle, you've already got all the options.
But
So,
that's
again-
terrific, but that's not what the council has asked us to do. I mean, we're going so far afield.
But change the question.
Right, so just to get back to what we're
to
trying
public
to do here.
safety.
Yeah, they
We're not,
react very
this is
well
not
to
the
that.
this is not the Public Safety Commission. We're not solving public safety for the community at large. The task in front of the commission is the question of whether or not digital kiosks are acceptable in this community. Yes or no? The component of security camera is truly secondary, and it would just be a requirement of those kiosks. As it stands right now, a shopping center can install standalone kiosks that are non-digital. This ordinance would allow those to become digital. So it would be better to keep the conversation there, recognizing that a final ordinance, if anything moves forward, I mean, something will move forward, whether it's recommended for approval or denial will be up to the commission.
But you've written it all down, it's there.
It will include that security camera requirement, but I'd rather the actual discussion focus on the specific question of digital signage.
Well, you know, Dennis brought up 21 and I had highlighted it. And if you read the answer, if it's true, what are we talking about? It says the ultimate goal is to establish a security camera network to enhance public safety.
Right.
Doesn't mention kiosks at all, and you keep driving
Police
on
Commission,
kiosks.
The safety, Public Safety Commission.
Yeah.
That's where this, yeah.
So,
I
Nothing
think
is
we're
wrong.
beating a dead horse. I think
Right.
they have direction. Don't you have enough direction?
I think that John's idea was an excellent one, and I think that staff has the direction they need to bring this back for a public hearing. Do you? Okay.
Madam Chair.
I think so.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just so that we don't keep continuing, there were some First Amendment questions that were posed. I know you mentioned, Bob, about discrimination with certain shopping centers and so forth.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you. Are you?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I just wanted to address some of the legal First Amendment questions that were posed in the Q&A. You mentioned the buildings being discriminated against because we were at that time only going to focus on one shopping center. It's open to more now, but that is not a protected class. So the city can make parameters for these signs.
Okay.
So that's one thing. There was a mention of restricting content. Government cannot do that. Content, like what is said, the actual content specific, government cannot do that. Now, content neutral, which I think is coming up, we want to try to have a say on the time, place, and manner. Like meaning, well, let me say it specifically. I heard, I think Michael said have one ad the entire day, things like that. So when it's content neutral, there are certain things you have to look at. What is the reason for the restriction? Does it serve a significant government interest? Does it leave other means of communication? The fact that I just don't like bright lights, I don't know if that's significant. So when we're looking at the restrictions, just to save this time, I wanted to make sure we said that now, and I can answer any questions so that staff can come back with a more ready draft.
Can we have the Public Safety Commission meet with us? Because this, to me, they should have been involved. They should be involved. That's what this is about. The staff even said that's what this is about.
But I think I think this is what I'm going to ask, Madam Chair. Specific question that has been stated several times: digital kiosk, yes or no? So I think we need. Everybody is okay. It's okay to have your stance, but digital kiosk, and then restrictions. And then we can move forward from there.
Yeah.
Everyone is passionate.
Look,
so.
whatever the underlying reason, whatever's behind it, what's in front of us is digital kiosks, which relates to signage, which is why it's before the Planning Commission and not Public Safety. At the end of the day, whatever's behind, whatever is truly behind it, that's what's before us.
Okay.
So, let's again, we're back to John's idea. Let's run with it. Okay? Are we good? All right. Future agenda items and reports. Director's report.
Thank you. So our next meeting will be September 5th. And so far, what we have trending for that is a new single-family residence in the Calabasas Park area. And then potentially digital kiosks. We'll kind of see how much amendments we have to make to the draft ordinance, what will go into the staff report, and we have to have enough time to properly do a public hearing notice. But we did have it tentatively on the agenda to return September 5th. Of course, there were the two projects tonight that were recommended for approval to return with those resolutions. So that's what we have aligned in September, on the first meeting of September. After that, the schedule does look pretty light, but it just kind of will depend on how these things will move forward. I have a feeling digital kiosk won't make it back to September 5th, maybe September 19th. I do want to remind the commission that I believe commission terms are all expiring this year, so make sure that you follow the website or reach out to the city clerk to find out about the application process for applying for the commission. And that's it for my report.
All right, thank you. Do we have any announcements, any final?
I would just add that next Thursday, I believe, there is a Chamber City Mayor's Luncheon at the Calabasas Country Club. And
Terrific.
I'm not sure what the openness of the reservation process is, but you can call the chamber or probably ask the city about what's happening on that time and date.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
See Clavia on Sunday.
Wow.
Wow.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Nobody says nay.